past the creaky metal gates, through the fog-enveloped graveyard, you find yourself on the rickety old porch of a long-forgotten home. Beyond the threshold sits a man, obsessed, a tortured soul, cursed to discover all about the Southern California haunt community and beyond. You have now entered the domain of the Creepcast with Rick Creeper. The Creepcast, hosted by Rick Creeper 11.
Alrighty, guys, we're back at it. Rick Creeper with the Creepcast podcast. This is episode 20, and I'm super excited because right around the corner it is spooky season. It's only fitting to have this person here because he is the godfather of Halloween at theme parks. I just made that up the other day, sorry. I figured you get a kick out of it. Excuse me. He is the co-founder and creative director of Midsummer Scream, the world's largest Halloween and horror convention held every summer here in Long Beach, California. A man has 20 plus years of experience in and around the theme entertainment industry and haunt attraction community. I did my homework on you. The person behind Theme Park Adventure, established in 1994. It was the creative programming director for Scare LA, from 2012 to 2016. And I'm talking about the man, Mr. Rick West. How we doing, sir?
Hey, man. Thank you. It's great to finally be here with you.
You know what? I'm a little nervous. I admit it. I had too much coffee today.
Coffee's good. Coffee's all right.
A little too much.
That's good.
And you have the coolest name. You sound like a secret agent. It's like Agent Rick West. Like, kind of like a James Bond or
Rick
something.
West and Rick Creeper. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's horrible.
The first person that makes a pair of dick comment, that's it.
Well, thank you for coming down.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me. Really, it's great.
Super excited just to have you on and talk about what we got going on in August, which we'll talk about eventually. I'm just going to jump into this. It's just, do you consider yourself a creative writer by trade?
Oh, man, that's a great question. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, that's what I get paid for in my day job. In the themed entertainment world, and it's something though that I believe that people are born with. Like, you can teach somebody to take pictures if they have a nice DSLR or whatever, but you don't really teach people to be photographers.
Okay,
right? You can train to draw pictures and make paintings, but it doesn't mean that you're an artist, right?
So definitely a natural talent.
So I think it's something, that it's kind of, it's one of those things that you're kind of born with. And then I definitely was born with the writing. Nobody really in my family had that. So I have no idea where the hell it came from.
I can relate to that.
My grandmother was pretty good at writing, and she was a school teacher, and she actually taught me to read and write before I went to school.
Oh, wow.
Which was great, but caused problems later on because I was like so far ahead of the curve that the school didn't know what to do with me. Anyway, that's a whole 70s problem, but 70s and 80s problems. But no, so yes, by trade, I'm a creative writer.
Okay.
And just naturally, it's something that's come to me and that I've been blessed with in life.
That's definitely a skill that people, like you said, you can develop it to an extent, but if you have this vivid imagination where theater of the mind eventually translates to paper. I mean, I can relate because when I was a kid, I was writing things and short stories, and eventually I got into like role playing with like tabletop games and so forth. But it's not about me; it's about you.
No, dude, that's exactly it. And I think that probably, if we got into it, very similar backgrounds that way, right?
Yeah.
So, and it all ties into the Halloween stuff and all the fantasy stuff that you're into. But I mean, for me, it started with early Apple IIe games, Ultima, or
Ultima, you just
Cranston Manor, or all this adventure stuff. The very first adventure game I ever played was Wizard and Princess.
Wow.
And these are these fantastic old Sierra games, that don't really even exist anymore. But I mean, and that just ignites your imagination. And then when you realize, hey, I can put pen to page, or back then it was like the pencil that's like a horse's leg, right? To page, and like create stuff of my own that people can read. That was just kind of like off to the races for me. But then it became, playing adventure on Atari 2600 was like the greatest thing ever, right? So, and then of course D&D, and D&D came along, played that. For me, the whole sidetrack to that was when TSR came out with the Indiana Jones role-playing game. I started playing those.
This is going to be a 6-hour episode if we keep talking.
So there's a lot, I'm sure, that you go back to people like you and I. I'm sure that there are a lot of similarities with what kind of sparked the fire.
You said so much. Geez, like, yeah, D&D. I remember like the old Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Oh, God. Those books, are you kidding me? The bookmobile would come and like weeks before you'd ordered like all 12 of the Choose Your Own Adventure books, right?
Wow, this is going to be strictly D&D and role-playing episode. So you obviously are a creative young man. Were you writing short stories as a young man, or like in a journal? Were you reading novels, like graphic horror, or just like fantasy lore? What was the spark that created the man that you are now?
Man, dude, there's so much went into creating the monster. I think the earliest I remember writing like a horror story, I was probably in 2nd grade, and I just did this thing that I think I have it somewhere still stuffed away. It was called, it was like Curse of the Werewolf or Night of the Werewolf or something. And I wrote this whole story about this person becoming a werewolf, and I'm sure that you can see the notes inside of it from the teacher. I'm sure the teacher's like, this is great. But I was going to like a Christian school at the time, and I'm like doing this werewolf shit and making, scary cover and all that. But that's just, I love that. And I was the kid that grew up watching the monster movies on Sunday on Channel 5.
Yes.
And just, dude, all that stuff. And then my family never, I spent a lot of time growing up with my grandparents, and my grandparents never like shied away from like I remember waiting when I was a kid. I remember waiting, and we're jumping all over the place. I remember waiting, till the 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or whatever debut it was on MTV of Thriller.
Wow,
that was a big moment. And then when I realized that there were scary movies on HBO, because HBO was like the only thing back then, I remember watching the original Halloween on HBO, and this is like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was a little kid. I was born in 70, so 8 years later, Halloween comes out. Then probably 9 years later is when it hit HBO, is my guess. And so then we're off to the races with that. So when Halloween 2 comes out, my grandfather's dragging me to the Crest in San Bernardino to see it in the movie theater, And so that kind of like sparked all of that in me. As far as the reading, so here's the funny thing. You always hear, well, writers are voracious readers.
Yes.
Not in my case.
Okay. Because
when I spend all my day either writing professionally or writing, whatever I'm doing, the last thing I want to do is come home and read someone else's work.
It makes perfect sense. I do maintenance for, medical manufacturer. The last thing I want to do is come home and fix something.
Yep.
So I totally get it. But if I have to, I have the skill set. So
the first book I ever read cover to cover, and it was a small book, was when I was in high school. I chose to read Stephen King's It.
That's 1,000+ pages
from cover to cover. That was literally in high school. That was the first book I had ever read cover to cover on my own.
There's so much in that book that neither the made-for-TV movie nor the 2 recent movies. There's so much in that book.
There's so much.
I was like, I wish they would cover this, a bit more. Just
so much, right? So much, and so I fell in love with Stephen King. Became my go-to. Stephen King is the man, and he is the go-to for everything as far as horror writing goes. Dude, even his, if you guys listening are writers or aspiring to be writers, I can't recommend. He has a book called On Writing that I cannot recommend highly enough. You got to probably, if you're going to go to Amazon, you can find it. But if you go to an actual brick and mortar bookstore, there's a couple around, I think. You have to sometimes ask like where it is.
Right.
Because sometimes it's not with his novels. Sometimes it is. I don't think they know what to do with it. It's basically his philosophy on what it takes to write stories. And it's a phenomenal read. Whether you're a pro writer or starting out, it's a must read. I fell in love with his short story compilations.
So did I.
Even when he wrote under Richard Bachman. The Long Walk, shit like that was just like so amazing.
The Stand,
Night Shift.
The Langoliers, I'm probably butchering that. Night Shift,
stuff, right?
The Mist, Night Shift, that's a great one. There's so many, I can't even think right now, but something about just his genre. I was into him, not to cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, fine.
Stephen King and Dean R. Koontz. To this day, I still have those books. They're everywhere. They've taken over the apartment. I go to Savers, which is a better version of Goodwill, And just you could get like 4 books for like $10.
Nice.
And they're all secondhand. And I've gotten a lot of the TSR books, the Forgotten Realms, Stephen King, D.N.R. Koontz, and I get them, and I've been meaning to read them. At least I have them. I'm going to read them eventually. I've got original copies of like Salem's Lot and just all these other books. But
yeah, spookiest book I've ever read. Salem's Lot was the spookiest story I've ever read.
That movie, which was made for TV,
TV, dude. When I grew up, the little kid at the window, let me in. Was the best thing ever. And the dude and the caretaker sitting up in the when he opens the coffin, and the eyes are open in the cemetery. Those moments in my childhood, those certainly helped create the monster. I love that.
The monster that you are today. That's what molded you to become this.
Dude, yeah, I mean, there was all of that stuff, and of course, we'd be remiss if we're talking art, writers for a second. We'd be remiss not to mention Clive Barker in the Books of Blood.
Exactly.
Stuff like Rawhead Rex and all that stuff that I grew up with.
Rawhead Rex,
dude, all that, and probably the most horrible B movie ever made. But I mean, it was all that stuff was just so much fun to read growing up. I loved that, and that's actually my favorite form of writing. If I'm gonna write prose, And I, for years and years, I have a book rolling around in my head that whenever I sit down to do it, life gets in the way and I just never do it. It's just basically a compilation of short horror stories. And one of these days it'll happen, and it'll be that. Because I think by default, I'm one that I've forever struggled with ADHD and all this stuff. And so for folks like me, and also for generations that are growing up now that only read things in 160 characters or less,
wow.
I think that short stories, that's a really good way to go for people to break into things and to get people to read your work. I think that's great. I mean, and some of Stephen King's best stories are 4, 5, 6 pages.
I love his just that all the short stories, even like I read Poe, which is typical, gothy, whatever. But the short stories would captivate me. Yeah. I remember like Time Life books had like just like chapters of just like the lore of vampires.
Yeah,
like
that kind of stuff.
Robes. And it was just like, and this is when they're like mail order books. You get like a new book every month. So you look forward to this book to come up with this elaborate, final detail and like photos and all. We could talk books forever. Jesus.
Yeah. So now I'm 10. We're moving right along, aren't we? I'm 51 now, so we're almost there. But no, so that just kind of begat. And there's no great Big Bang moment where I fell in love with Halloween. I just kind of always did. I just was that kid that was drawn to that house on every block that had the scary record playing and like the sheet ghost hanging outside. I didn't care about getting gobs of candy at all the other house with groups of trick-or-treaters. It would be my grandpa and me, and I would just beeline to every spooky house in the neighborhood that I could find. And that was in Rialto back in the 70s. And there was one house that was so damn good. It was kind of up. There was it was kind of a berm. It was an elevated yard with a half wall around it, and lights out completely, just blackout on the house. In the driveway, there was a massive pile of candy, a mountain of candy. And so as you started walking along the sidewalk towards the driveway, you'd realize that there was a horse, a black horse, with the headless horseman figure in the yard. And as you started walking towards it, it actually came to life. It was an honest-to-God real horse, and it would start walking parallel with you. So the closer you got to the candy, the closer it got to you and the candy.
There is horse property in Rialto, I remember.
And dude, that was like the best thing ever, to realize that there was actually somebody dressed as the Headless Horseman riding atop this beautiful black horse in their front yard. Are you kidding? I was just, and I couldn't have been probably more than, God, at that point, I'm probably no more than 7. Maybe 6 or 7, and that was just like the best thing in the world.
I was probably the same age. Dude, this is in the 80s.
So good, yeah.
And I'm this chunky little kid with big Coke bottle glasses, and I'm dressed like a ninja, so the costume fit normal-sized kids. It didn't fit me. And I was that kid. I wanted to go all the spooky houses.
Yeah.
And there was the one house that had like, the fog, it was dry ice. What do you even fog machines?
Dry ice, right?
Dry ice.
Yeah.
And they had like, it was like the chilling, thrilling sounds on cassette.
The haunted house, yes.
And there was the one guy, remember the one house he went, he had all these props, and the guy was playing a synthesizer. And he was actually playing live music. I didn't realize at the time, but he was playing a lot of John Carpenter's music.
Sure, yeah.
And this guy was sitting there playing, and I'm watching this guy, this is creepy. And I'm watching him. and he was hiding in the bushes, and he had like cheesy ghoul makeup from like Spencer's gift shop or whatever. But it was always the spooky houses. Candy was nice, but I wanted to go to the houses that had like these makeshift haunted houses.
Of course.
Or the local YMCA. They're like, a fundraiser haunt.
YMCA, churches, and March of Dimes, dude. Those were the ones.
Those
right?
are the ones.
Yeah.
I didn't discover Not Scary Farm until I was 15, and I was the biggest chicken shit to go.
Right.
But I don't know what it is about Halloween and the horror movies. Like you said, it was the matinee on Channel 9 that showed horror movies, and eventually Elvira came on. And my grandparents too, they're like, "Oh, go ahead, mijo, watch what you want." And I'm like, "You don't let me watch Elvira?" Okay. I got to watch in the little black and white, and that's where I got. And my dad too. My dad's like, he loved the fact that I would go to the library and I come up with a stack of books of history and just horror and fantasy, and I just read and I write short stories, and I'll turn in these stories to my teachers. They're like, this is a little graphic about vampires being beheaded, and I was like, well, this is stuff I'm into and I'm reading. And it's just, anyways,
No, that's good, dude. For me, it wasn't so much bringing home stuff from the library. For me, it was getting my mom to take me. Then jump ahead to my early teens. I moved with my mom to Irvine, and so now I'm in Orange County. And as an 11-year-old, the task is getting her to take me to the drugstore where I have found this brand new magazine called Fangoria.
Fangoria, yeah,
dude. And the first episode, the first one that I ever saw was it may even be their first issue, is the one with zombie on the front of it. And she wouldn't buy it for me. I was so pissed off. I was like, my life isn't complete at 11 if I don't have this magazine. And I nattered the shit out of her. So finally she took me back the next week, and it was gone. It was sold out. And I was like, oh my God, I hate you. It's a little kid rage, right? And so I waited the next month, and then it came, and I would do that. And then I think she got sick of me asking her to take me to get this magazine. So they just, my mom got me like a subscription to it. And that was that, right? With Fangoria. So that's how that started. And yes, like you, I was young. I was probably 11 or 12. And my church group in Irvine, they say, you don't learn anything in church. Here's what I learned in church, kids. They said, we're going to take you to a thing called Halloween Haunt at Knott's Berry Farm.
Was that your first experience?
Yes. And I was like, what is Halloween Haunt? And I knew what Knott's was because I grew up here in Southern California. My grandfather, since I was like 2, we made pilgrimages to all the parks several times a year.
Right.
From Disneyland to SeaWorld to Lion Country Safari to Santa's Village. I mean, I just ran the gambit for, all this stuff. So I was very familiar with Knott's, but I had never heard of Haunt.
Right.
And so we were like, yep, let's go. And I remember we all piled into the church van, and we went, and we got out of the van, and it was the parking lot. It was the overflow parking, the Hurlbut property over across the street from Camp Snoopy-ish area there, La Palma. And
behind the McDonald's, right?
Yeah. Okay. And the fog was in the alligator farm back then, yes.
Oh, wow.
And the fog was just billowing from the park over La Palma. And I was like, what is going on here? And so we went in, and, I don't have any actual, like even snapshot memories, but I know that kicked off a love affair where you're like, holy shit, this is an entire park full of Halloween amazingness, So that just really was the first trip to Mecca for me, right? And then every year after that, we would just go. But the trick was not going to Tower Records to buy the tickets for Knott's. You had to get mom or somebody's parent had to take you to Knott's, because if you bought the tickets at the farm, they were big, cool tickets with artwork.
Artwork on it. I remember
Yes, and you had to have that. Yeah. That was like, you got to have that.
You didn't want the generic ones from the Tower Records down the street.
No.
Yeah.
You have to get the big tickets. So, and of course, here we are all these years later. Do I have any of said tickets? No. So, but that was the beginning of the whole Not Scary Farm thing. And then, it kind of was like, well, there are haunted houses everywhere. There's March of Dimes. There's churches had haunted houses, YMCA, all that stuff, right? And it just kind of became a thing with me, And I'll shut up so you can get into your next segue here. We'll
it's great. You answered like 10 questions already. I love it. I was like, cool. You're doing my job for me. Okay, so your first haunted house experience, was it like something at like a YMCA or March of Dimes, or was it more riveted towards actually going to Scary Farm?
It was probably in San Bernardino. There is a mall there called Carousel Mall now. It used to be the Central City Mall is what it was. And there was a movie theater there that we went to all the time. And it's where I saw Temple of Doom when it came out. Not that anybody cares, but that's where I saw Temple of Doom when it came out. Grandpa actually pulled me out of... My grandpa was the coolest. They actually pulled me out of school to go see Temple of Doom during the day.
That's cool.
When it opened. That's how badass my grandparents were. Anyway, there was a haunted house in the middle of the atrium outside of the movie theater, and it was just a black trailer that somebody had created a walkthrough experience in.
Okay.
And went and did that, and that is the earliest haunt memory I have. And the funny thing about that is... years later, I was writing about early haunt experiences on Theme Park Adventure. And I explained this being my earliest, like one of my earliest haunt memories. And out of the blue, I got an email from a very excited Garner Holt, who is the guy that has created this industry, this shop in the industry where they do animatronic figures for Disney, for everybody around the world. They fabricate. They did all the stuff for the log ride and mine train rehabs at Knott's.
Okay.
And when he was a teenager, Garner started producing in San Bernardino these haunted houses. Wow. And so that was Garner's very first haunted house. He was like 15 when he did that.
It's weird how those two worlds came together. Like,
so, right.
He's like, dude, I was that guy.
So people always assume that, like, because I have a long-standing friendship with Garner. People assume it was because of TPA or because I work in the industry or whatever. No, it was because when I was a kid, I went through his haunt as a kid.
That's so cool.
And so he reached out to me and was like, "Oh my God, no way, dude! This is like..."
He's like, "You remember that?"
Yeah, and he was so stoked about that, and that's so cool. We became friends after that. And so, yeah, that's one of my earliest. Then, of course, a lot of Scary Farm stuff. It would have been the early '80s that I started going to Knott's, so like 81, 82-ish.
I didn't go until I was about 15. I was a sophomore in high school. And so it's 92, 91, 92. And like you said, you pull up to that intersection of Beach and La Palma. You hear the rides. You see the fog. And you hear people screaming. I'm like, why are they screaming? Because the rides? And my buddy's like, no. I'm like, geez, okay, you're the devil now. And I remember just going to the turnstiles and seeing Ghost Town. And they had the sliders in Camp Snoopy. Yep. And I'm like, which way do we go? And my buddy's like, we're going into the fog. I'm like, what's with the voice? Yeah. I was terrified. Yeah. I was terrified. And to a point, like, I had the worst anxiety. I was dry heaving. And like, why are you dry heaving? I'm like, I'm scared. And I was 15. I remember like all the monsters had the giant shaker cans, the little ones.
Yep.
They had like, I remember in the mazes, they would tickle you in the neck with like a feather or something.
Yeah, feathers were a thing. Sure.
Yeah. And they and they had the little clicker. And I was like, and that was like, that's what the early 90s reminds me of haunt. Prior to that, it was just going to like home haunts or like the local Y or like, whatever charity was doing haunt attraction. But I was already this little kid interested in like horror and like fantasy and lore and just like creative writing. It's funny because I was like an athlete in high school and college, but I was taking all these creative writing courses. And they're like, you see this meathead sitting there at this little desk writing. And I'm like, I'm writing these short stories. And everyone's like, why is this guy? And I'm like, story of my life. What attracted you to the theme parks? Was it like the rides, the shows, the immersion, and what parks were you attending? You mentioned you went to all the different ones in Southern California. We went to Knott's a lot. We were more like a Universal family, less Disney. So what was it about the parks that attracted you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So again, like I said, my grandpa took me. It was like really that was like my grandfather and me type of event. And in retrospect, I can pretty much peg it on. He just, not a terribly happy marriage when I was a little boy, and lots of fighting at home, infighting with relatives and stuff. So it was his way to get out of the house for the day. And so it was like, I'm going to take Rick anywhere. And so we started going to all the parks. And that's all the parks. I mean, we check all the boxes from San Diego Zoo to Disneyland to Marine World to Lion Country Safari.
I remember that.
All that stuff. Santa's Village up in the mountains.
Remember Busch Gardens?
Oh, yeah. Busch Gardens. I was terrified, actually, of the log ride, which is weird because I loved the one at Knott's growing up, but for whatever reason, the one at Busch Gardens, I don't know what it was, scared the shit out of me. It was really weird.
It seemed so reckless, like you were going to fall out of it.
Dude, I don't know what it was. Maybe the flume was exposed. I mean, I don't remember, but I mean, there was something that, for whatever reason, the log ride at Busch Gardens, and this is in L.A., folks. People are like, what are you talking about, Busch Gardens? It's in L.A. where the Budweiser plant is. Scared the shit out of me. But I went there, did all the things. Didn't do Universal as much because, I lived in Rialto and then Redlands. And from there, that's a trek. To get out to Universal,
that's
right?
A mission, yeah.
Even back in the day when there probably wasn't that much traffic on the freeway, it was still a trek, right? So, and then, Magic Mountain didn't come back on. That didn't come online for me until I was like full-fledged teenager and in my Disneyland sucks, let's do roller coasters days, right? Every teenager goes through that. And I remember going to Magic Mountain shortly after like Colossus opened. That was my era and being like, holy shit. When I went into the parking lot and you could see Colossus looming, So that all the parks. And I think that as close as you get to any theme park fan having that just in their DNA from being a little kid growing up going to these parks, I think that's where you kind of just fall in love with it, right? Because it comes just part of your life. And so right out of high school, I graduated high school in '88, and I went to work right away at Disneyland as an attractions operator in New Orleans Square. And it was just like a no-brainer for me. I mean, I wanted to work at Disneyland, so that's what I did.
What did you do at Disney?
I was a ride operator. I worked on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I could picture you in those knee-high socks.
I was.
Yes.
I was.
With the stocking beanie.
Yes.
Kind of tilted off to the side.
You got it. That's it. So I did Pirates. I worked Haunted Mansion. I worked Country Bear Jamboree. I worked Canoes, which we shall not speak of, and I was on the opening guest control team for Splash Mountain when it finally opened. So that was the era that I was at. I spent many days standing out on the porch of the Haunted Mansion watching Splash Mountain being built next door. That's my era of when I worked at Disneyland. That dates me for people, right?
I'm trying to pitch you, what did you wear in the Haunted Mansion? Like what costume?
Nothing. It was dark. Never mind. No, so I, it's the mansion thong with a bat right there.
Right.
But
that's scary.
Here's the cool thing, and this is like a whole other episode. I worked back then a position that very few people ever did. It was called safety. And what safety was, if you can believe this, in the 80s, in the late 80s, there were no cameras in the Haunted Mansion. And so they would have one person that wanted to do it spend their entire shift inside the ride, walking behind the doom buggies, making sure people weren't messing up or jumping out or whatever. So I became, that was like my jam. I was like, I don't like people. I don't like being around people. This is perfect. I can spend the entire shift, including my lunch, in the bowels of the Haunted Mansion.
Just
like sign me up. Like whoever would want to do anything else. And so I did it so often and knew the ride literally like forward and backward, like the back of my hand, So they nicknamed me the Mansion Man, and the safety was like my thing. That became my jam. And so I spent countless hours inside the ride, just walking back and forth from the endless hallway at the beginning to really you didn't want to go out of the attic, because once you leave the attic, walking with the cars gets kind of tricky because they turn so much, and you never want to be in the way. You never want to be seen because that ruins the show. But and also you don't want all the flesh on your heel ripped off by a car that turns on you. Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything, but so that's what I did. That was my dealio there, and so I just fell in love with it, man. And that again begats. That really kind of instilled the love I had then of the theme park industry, right?
I see the two worlds coming together: the creative mind, the writer, and then the young man that's passionate about the theme parks.
Yeah.
Quick story. You're probably the one that busted me. I was a bad boy in my early teens, and we're in the Haunted Mansion, and we're in our doom buggy. So we decided to partake in something we're supposed to be doing. Okay. So we lit the lighter. And out of nowhere, someone came out of the dark. They're like, "Hey, put that away."
That's safety, yeah.
And I was like, "Maybe that was you." That was in '92, so maybe who knows?
No, I was long gone.
Okay, so you were gone, but it wasn't you then.
I was out of there.
Worlds collide. But I was like, "Hey, we weren't supposed to be doing that."
Yeah.
I remember that this was like when they still had the people mover, and then the I forget what it was called. It was the baskets you rode across.
Skyway.
The Skyway.
Skyway, yep.
Yeah, so we were being bad little boys and doing things.
Spitting off the Skyway.
Yeah.
Not realizing that any cast member could look up and see the number on the side of
exactly.
your bucket. Yeah. Radio ahead, call ahead to the station. Yeah, number 17, those are assholes. Security and then everybody waiting for you when you get to the Fantasyland station. Yeah.
We were being bad boys. I remember when I was a young boy up until like my teens, I loved Universal. It was always something like just like you said, my grandparents would take me, my grandfather would go, and it was the torture rack where you could put your head in. It was a photo op.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
The old 18 van you could lift.
Yep.
My most memorable thing was Kit from Knight Rider was there.
Yep.
You could get in, and they had an actor cued with a mic, and you could talk to Kit.
Yes, I remember that.
And then at the time, they had these cosplayers, elaborate costumes that were all the characters from Masters of the Universe.
Nice.
And they actually gave you a figure, and I was like geeking out that He-Man signed my figure.
Yep.
But what I love the most, which is still there, the facade, and they've used it. They've done God, what is that show that Joe Rogan used to host? I forget what it's called. But
I know exactly where you're going.
Oh, geez. Where they have to do like crazy stunts.
You're going to Castle Dracula, though, aren't you?
Yeah.
I know. Let's just get there. I know what you're talking about. That was, of course, what little kid that was into this stuff didn't love going to Castle Dracula?
I loved Castle Dracula. And then eventually, I believe they turned into the Conan stunt show.
It became Conan. Yep.
I think to this day, if you look off to the side of the stage, that dragon's still there. I might be mistaken. But
Bob Gurr built that.
Really?
For them, yeah.
He
Bob
did?
Gurr did that when he left Disney. He created the dragon for Universal.
I had no idea.
He did King Kong for the original Confrontation.
Yeah.
And then he also did the dragon for the Conan show.
I had no idea he
Yeah.
did that. I love that stunt show. Was the cheat? I watched it on YouTube. I'm like, this is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
But I was such a kid, and again, I was into like I forget the author who wrote all the Conan sagas. But I was into the movie with Schwarzenegger, and then they had the stunt show there. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And we always went to Universal, but at the same time we went to Knott's because we had family in Buena Park.
Yeah.
And I remember like the soapbox racers.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm gonna butcher the dark ride with the dinosaurs.
Kingdom of the Dinosaurs.
Kingdom of the Dinosaurs,
which came after Berry Tales. The original Berry Tales.
And just going there and then having like to this day my brother has it. It's the photo you could take when you could dress up in the old Western wear.
Yeah.
So apparently I'm Billy the Kid, and I'm this little kid, and they gave me a musket. And I have like a ruffle shirt with like a derby. I'm like, why am I wearing a derby? And my brother looks like a cool cowboy.
Yeah.
We want to go back and replicate that as grown men.
Do it. That's so perfect.
So we want to do it. We want to take the original photo. We're like, hey, can you match these costumes?
Do it, man.
So we're gonna do that eventually.
That's
We've been
beautiful.
talking about that. So
you got to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. We grew up on Knott's, and just like I said, eventually I started experiencing Scary Farm, and then I discovered. I don't even know it was called Horror Nights in '97. We started going to Universal, and I remember that when I went, it was the Undertaker from the WWF at the time, Clyde Barker.
That I've often in other podcasts and in writings I've talked about. Was so weird. That year they had there was the Undertaker, and then right next door was the Buffy the Vampire Slayer maze. And I always thought, what a weird thing to have a WWF
It was
maze.
so random, but then it was cool. It was themed. And then I remember Clyde Barker, he was his maze was on the back lot.
Yes.
And it went into like a warehouse, and it was supposed to be the LA County morgue.
Yeah.
And again, I was dry heaving, and I'm like 21. I'm like, why am I so terrified?
Yeah.
And then 20-some years later, I'm like a scare actor. I'm like, why am I? I'm still scared. Like I won't walk my own mazes.
That's funny. Yeah.
I won't. Anybody knows me, I'm.
I was the kid that never. I don't know. I didn't. I wasn't even born with that flip. That switch to get flipped. I just don't get scared. Like the real shit in life that scares me is like having elderly grandparents or whatever and getting a phone call in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah,
right? That kind of shit is what is scary in life to me. Or something happening, to my girlfriend or that stuff is now what is very scary and real. But no, man, never like watching scary movies or going to haunted houses or anything. None of that ever scared me. I was just completely born without that fear gene like that.
It's funny because I've said this before. Like when we go to other haunt attractions, they don't bother me.
Yeah.
Unless they're tiny women, they pick up on I don't like when they're small. Mm-hmm. And I got attacked in the depths by the sea wenches. They all saw me. They lunged at me.
Yeah.
And then when I worked in my own mazes, when I was over at Dark Harbor and Feast, they knew that I wouldn't walk through the maze. I would go through the back door. They're like, here comes Rick. I'm like, nope.
That's funny.
And I was like, nope. Same with Sinister Point. I'm like, nope. I'm going through the back door. It's like
that's really funny.
But I don't know what it is about the ladies. They pick up on it and they scare the hell out of me. They just like, look at this big guy. Let's tear. Oh Jesus! And I had 4 of them lunge at me. It's hilarious. It's just, yeah. Anyways, I feel like you were the first, and correct me if I'm wrong, the video blogger when it came to covering the theme parks and haunt attractions. And prior to YouTube, you're already covering the parks and haunts through Theme Park Adventure, which is a regular blog, correct?
So we'll correct you even a little bit further. Okay. No need to be corrected, because yes, I was the first video blogger. I was the first blogger, period.
Okay.
To cover this stuff. TPA actually, so Theme Park Adventure kind of started as a part of a BBS, which for you young kids, it stands for, it was an electronic bulletin board system. Uh-huh. And so basically you'd have your 300 baud modem from US Robotics or whatever, and you would dial up this phone number, and then you'd hear that horrible connecting, type thing. and you would log on, and it was just text, and there were different forums that you could choose. Number 1, to go into Disneyland forum or whatever, and you'd go in and you could read posts that people had written. And then you could respond and read all the newest stuff that was going on. But then you had to log out, because while you were on there, anybody else trying to dial in would get a busy tone. Uh-huh. And so you would sit sometimes for hours waiting to get onto a BBS, right? Uh-huh. And so way back in the day, a friend of and I had a BBS system, and we called it Black Rainbow. And I started a section on it because there was movies and shit like you could talk about, and I started a section about theme parks, and it really took off. People loved talking about theme parks, and at the time there were different, like Disneyland BBS stuff that was out there as well too, but there was nobody doing like all the things, right? And and we'll jump forward a little bit. It occurred to me that I really liked everything, from Disneyland to roller coasters to Las Vegas to zoos. Nobody was covering zoos, and I was like, and even then, even though I didn't really have a term for it in my head, or it really wasn't a known thing, it was themed entertainment. If you go to a zoo and the enclosure is themed and you're immersed in that environment, that's also themed entertainment, right? So there was just nothing out there that was doing that. And so I created TPA, Theme Park Adventure, in 1994, because I wanted to be like one guy that wasn't just writing about Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And certainly there was a lot to write about Disneyland at the time. But I wanted to cover everything. And so I covered everything from the building of Luxor in Las Vegas to, the opening of Desperado at State Line.
So cool.
And just so was there for all that. And there were like probably 3 magazines maybe. There was the E-Ticket magazine. There was Storyboard, The Art of Laughter. There may have been Persistence of Vision may have been online at that point. And then there was Theme Park Adventure. Like, you could count it on less than, one hand. Mm-hmm. And those were all really Disney geared. Those things were very Disney geared. And I was like talking about Vegas and what was going on back then. And this is 94, 95 at this point, right? Okay. And so and this is really hard to wrap my head around. There was no social media. There was no, I would go to Disneyland, and we would take pictures of Adventureland being torn up for Indiana Jones that was coming. Uh-huh. And then I would go take that roll of photos and have it developed at, 1 hour moto photo in Irvine. And then I would make the layout for TPA. At the time, it was a monthly publication that was called The Break Zone. And I would do the layout on my Amiga 2000 computer, and then print the pages out on my $1,200 laser printer that I made my grandfather buy me. Nicest grandfather ever. And so then I would take that to Kinko's, and then I would take the photos from Moto Photo, pick the photo that I wanted, and have that then shrunken down at Kinko's. Then I would cut that out, and I would paste that with a glue stick onto the template, and then I would make a little magazine, take that to Kinko's, and say, now I need 50 copies of this. Uh-huh. That's how you did it back then.
Wow.
You didn't take a picture and tweet about it, and suddenly everybody around the world had it 30 seconds later.
No, yeah.
Dude, it was like a lot of work. And so I did that, and people loved it. Now, the big jump for me came when Indiana Jones opened at Disneyland. I had followed it the whole construction of Indiana Jones. We knew that it was something special that was coming, that was being built. It was certainly the biggest thing in my lifetime at Disneyland that had been built and opened. And during the construction, this is a weird time. And I'm so fortunate because I realized that what I did then as TPA, in retrospect, not that special. I mean, anybody that's, got a phone now does the same shit that I was doing then. It's just nobody was really doing it.
But you paved the way.
Well, yeah, but it was a time, and I was just there at the right time.
Okay.
I was the kid with the drive to do it, and it was the right time, and literally things happened then that just everything fell into place. I befriended Tony Baxter because he was there all the time. And I knew who he was, so I kind of met him when I was a cast member at Disneyland.
Okay.
And so that kind of spilled over into, hey, I was the guy that you talked to here, and we became friends that way. Same thing with Marty Sklar. I became friends with Marty Sklar, and he became very supportive of what I did. And what I did do that was, I think, very helpful to me is, without solicitation, I just started sending Tony and Marty copies of The Break Zone at Imagineering every month when I would publish them. Never knew whether they got them or not, or if they went right into the round file, but I sent it to them no matter what, right? But they did read them. And this is before everybody and their mother knew, Marty's history with the company of being the writer that Walt brought on to work on the Disneyland, newspaper, and then later to be the one that wrote many of Walt's speeches and all this stuff for Imagineering and the company. And so Marty, every time I would bump into him, and it was always so awkwardly, always in one of the bathrooms. I'd go into the bathroom in Adventureland, right? I'd go into the bathroom, and there's Marty again at the urinal, and I would always walk in, and he'd always say, "Oh, there he is, the editor, the publisher." So I knew that he was reading this stuff, and he was recognizing me, this young kid, walking in. And so that was very cool. And Tony would start saying hi and called me the editor all the time. And so, again, those relationships bloomed from that. And as a result, TPA was the only fanzine publication and the first to be recognized as legit media by Disneyland when Indy opened. And we were invited to attend the 3-day opening for Indiana Jones. And that kind of kicked everything off at that point. For TPA was finally legit. And it just kind of snowballed from there. There was a long time where it was just, this print publication. And then it's a blur now because it's so long ago, decades ago. But at some point we just kind of merged onto that information superhighway, and the internet was born. I do remember my friend calling me over. He owned an Amiga store where he sold Amiga equipment in Mission Viejo. And he called me one afternoon so excited. He goes, "Dude, grab a picture, come over to my house." And I'm like, "Okay, what picture? It doesn't matter what picture, just grab a picture and just get over here." So I did, and he had this thing. It looked like a shoebox with a clear plastic window in it. And it was hooked to a parallel port on his computer. And I'm like, "What is that?" He goes, "Put the picture down on the table." And he puts this thing on top of it, and he presses the enter key on the Amiga, and this machine goes for 5 minutes, and then suddenly the picture appears on his computer monitor.
That's insane.
And I was like,
what is this technology?
Holy shit, voodoo, 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 voodoo. It was amazing. And then he's like, "Dude, this is called a GIF." And we were like, "Oh, GIF," and it was just and then it clicked, and then he said, "We can put these on Black Rainbow." And I was like, "Oh my God, we can share these with people
not
anywhere.
Not just a publication.
Yeah,
anymore.
we could share these on digitally." And dude, that was it. And so then came the internet, and we had
YouTube.
We were webmasters then, not bloggers, I'll have you know.
Webmasters.
I remember the first time somebody said, "Oh, you're a blogger," I bristled. I was like, "The fuck you say? I'm a webmaster. What do you mean a blogger?" But yes, blogging, TPA did that. And then, so with the pictures, I would go to Knott's or wherever and take pictures and come home, scan the pictures on because then I got a scanner, and then would post them on TPA, and people could see that. And then, years later came video, right, where you could actually download video, and the videos were clunky, chunky, and I remember I'd have to I'd go through a maze at Knott's, and to get like a 7, first of all, flow throughs, forget it. You're lucky if you got maybe a minute or two,
right?
And then it was like 3.5 megs. I mean, it was like freaking huge then,
right?
You
Huge
know?
format. Yeah,
you had to download forever. It took you an hour to download 3 meg, whatever you're downloading, and but yeah, I mean, it kind of all blurs together. But I remember asking Knott's if they would mind if I posted pictures and or video of not Scary Farm, well, Halloween Haunt it was then, but it's always been ambidextrous. It was always Scary Farm and Haunt. If I could post pictures of them building the mazes. And they were very confused at first. They were like, nobody in the world cares about this.
Right.
And so flash forward now, you can't imagine any group, whether professional or home haunter, that doesn't post their build pictures, right?
That's like the excitement
of course.
It's like walls are going
and
up.
Just inherently, I knew that. I'm like, and that's the way I've done. So that is backing up. That's the approach that I've taken to anything, any endeavor that I do. Whether it's TPA, whether it's a convention, whatever it is, I've always figured that if it's something that I'm interested in, that I would want to see, someone else out there has to be interested.
Right.
And that's always been my internal compass. Because there's never been like a book, a blueprint to do like any of the stuff that I've been involved in doing.
You just did it because of
passion. Just did it because I was thinking, I want to see that. That'd be cool. So I just figured it's cool. And it turned out to be pretty cool. And so... yeah, so that's how it all started with Knott's, and then that evolved into a whole thing where, the logistics of shooting the flow-throughs at Knott's became really, really involved. It included the security department, it included operations, and we'd have to map out when we would start, where we were going to start, when we were going to hit each maze, radio communication flying back and forth between all the different mazes where we were throughout the night, and as a result, TPA for years and years and years became the only site, the only media outlet that was allowed to do that.
Scary Farm. Now it's like, media night. Everyone goes.
Everybody goes.
Everyone's a YouTuber, a blogger.
Anybody with a phone.
Anybody with a phone. I got invited to the Bloodshed. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I'm nobody, dude. Really?
Yeah.
It's like,
so that's how it kind of all started. Yeah.
So side note, for those at home listening,
now we're into hour 3.
Rick West was named one of the nation's top 10 theme park industry bloggers in 2014 by USA Today, which is pretty cool, I think.
That came out of the blue. That was a weird thing. I think somebody just said, "Oh, I'm going to nominate Theme Park Adventure and Rick," and I didn't know about it until I get this congratulations email from USA, Today or whatever it was, and yeah, it was cool. And then I was just kind of like, "Wow, that's cool." And people would just vote. They'd call in every day and cast their vote, and I threatened them with bodily harm if they didn't. So it worked out pretty well, and we were named, whatever year that was. BC, I was named the, influential blogger, whatever.
That's a cool thing to put on your sleeve. So
it's pretty cool. At the time, it was really fun. And, it was, I've never done anything for adoration or admiration or anything like that. I've always done stuff just that I enjoy doing and think is cool, doing. And the fact that TPA or, whatever became platforms to kind of preach or whatever I do once in a while about things, that just kind of is a cool side effect of everything. The fact that anybody was ever interested to listen or to follow along in the first place was pretty damn cool. But really, it was kind of like, it was self-indulgent, and it was also for the sake of preservation, right? I just thought to myself, no one's doing this. I know no one's doing it because I'm the guy doing it. And when I ask parks how to do it, they don't know. So I just was like, well, somebody one of these days is going to give a shit about what this maze looked like or what, and I really just kind of took it on myself to preserve as much as I could of this Halloween stuff or whatever TPA was covering. TPA was always about the story behind the story, right? It was like Indiana Jones is great and cool, but really, who created this? I mean, that's the story that I want to know. As a geek and a nerd, I want to know who the Tony Baxters or Susan Bonds or people behind the attraction.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Right? And that really became TPA's go-to. And it turns out that, people really, really loved that. So, it's always been a kind of a self-indulgent path, but it's one that also kind of has as purpose in the big scheme of things of kind of serving a community, if not at the time, one down the line. So now there's a shitload of young haunters and that are using TPA as like reference to old, when they say old, not Scary Farm. I'm like, can you take out like one or two of those olds? But, but I mean, I get it. And for them to come back and say, dude, I'm a haunter now because I grew up watching your videos or whatever. That's really freaking cool. And that's kind of like the full circle has finally come and closed as far as what really TPA was all about. And I love that.
You definitely paved a path for media to people. Like everyone loves to see behind the scenes builds or just the walkthroughs. Yeah. I remember the early videos of Knots, like seeing like the Dark Realm, which was great because I was making fun of Bill Galvin from Whole House and Dan Baranowski. They worked together in the maze.
Fun, yeah.
I was like, what a shitty theme, but it's just cool to see this.
The quote-unquote maze, right?
Just cool to see this early footage. And just, like you said, nobody was doing this. Nobody was a blogger back then. And having it just like in a format that was actually, print. Yeah. And eventually migrates to video. Now, like, everyone with the phone and with the Movo rig goes to media night at whatever park. And there's so many of them. There's some I love. There's some I'm like, okay. And I appreciate the effort. But what it's about, you're very passionate about what you do and what you love and your hobbies and interests. You turn it into a platform for the people to share with. Yeah. And it just lays this path for, the theme park and the haunted attraction industry.
Yeah, we like I said, it didn't set out to do that, right?
Right.
Didn't set out to go to media junkets and things like that. I didn't even know that existed. I remember I was very confused. A very, very confusing day for me was when I got, because there was like really no email and there definitely was no texting. We didn't even have cell phones. Imagine this shit. How do you even do anything without your phone, right? It's crazy. Anyway, right. I remember getting a piece of mail from Busch Gardens in Tampa Bay.
Wow.
That I had never even like dealt with because I was busy covering the parks here, and it was, we would like you to come out for the opening of our brand new B&M roller coaster Montu in our new Egyptian area. And I called them because, again, email. And I called them and I said, hey, this is really cool. I got this, but I live in Orange County. I'm in California. I'm a long walk from Tampa. And plus, I've never even been on a plane past New Orleans. I have no idea where Florida is. I know that it's on the East Coast somewhere. And they said, no, it's an invite. We want to fly you out.
Wow.
And put you up and have you here as our guest for a few days along with one of your staff members.
So expenses paid.
Dude, and I was like, it was like a record, the needle scratch. I was like, whoa. Me. You want to put me on an airplane and fly me out to Florida? And they're like, well, yeah.
That's so cool.
I was like, holy shit. I mean, it was like, that was a crazy moment. I was so confused. And I said, and I can bring somebody? And they're like, well, yeah, you got to have somebody with you to enjoy it. And I was like,
well, okay.
What the hell is this? This is amazing. So, yeah, hell yeah, I did that. It was great. And of course, took advantage of that. And while I was there, I went to Walt Disney World, which is just an hour up the road. And it was really, really great. And then, there were press junkets and there were press events. And I have many really fantastic memories of being at the birth of so many great attractions here in Southern California. Mm-hmm. Some great openings that, dude, I mean, those are very special memories that, and it's funny because it used to be really weird because people would say, oh man, I want your job. That's so cool. You just go to the park and take pictures or whatever, and then you get invited to all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but dude, if you could see how many countless hours I'm sitting at the computer writing and posting, and it's a lot of freaking work. And then having a day job, on top of that, it's a lot of work. So yeah, we'll go and spend a few hours at the opening of Not Scary Farm, but dude, there are countless hours and thousands of dollars on the back end being spent to create this stuff for everybody. So it was not just to go and have free food and booze. It was a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. People see like the fun aspect of it, but they don't see the responsibility, the demand. It's like, hey, if I'm expected to produce something at the end of the day, it's like, okay, it don't matter how tired I am at the end of my day for my day job.
Nobody cares.
I still have to edit this podcast.
Nobody cares.
I have to write this script.
Yep.
It's like if they expect it by Thursday and it's Monday, I better get my ass in gear.
Yep.
But you reap the benefits, obviously, but there is a lot of work. But what the payoff is for me, and I see it in you, you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And you're creating something for people that can relate as well. And to me, that has more value than anything monetary.
I think that like the magic, like I said, following the internal compass is very important. And if you're doing something in life, I don't care what it is. I don't care whether you're planting peanuts or you're writing about, Broadway shows or whatever you're doing in life. If it's not fun, it's time to stop.
Exactly.
The minute something becomes unfun in your life, it's time to move on. And that's kind of what happened with TPA. It became more of a job instead of something that I really was passionate about and wanted to keep doing, because the playing field changed and parks, people that I had worked with for a long time moved on, and suddenly there were young folks right out of PR school or wherever PR people come from, and they suddenly didn't give a shit that I was the first in the trenches with their park covering things. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're not really an influencer. I could get mommy bloggers that have 50,000, and started getting less and less invites from certain parks and it was very awkward conversation because they felt bad, but their directive was, no, we need to bump some of these smaller sites. And TPA was never like one of the huge theme park sites. There were sites out there much bigger than TPA. I always said we were a boutique, publication or website, but we got it really right. The stuff that we did, we got really, really right. And we were getting bumped for people that didn't even know a thing about Not Scary Farm or didn't even know what the new ride was at Universal that they were invited to be at the opening, of. And it just got very frustrating and very fast. And it was just like, whoa, the writing is on the wall. I don't want to do this anymore. And also there was overlap. I had been working, then I started working in the themed entertainment industry professionally. So the last thing that you want to do is work all day on real theme park stuff and then go home and spend another 6 to 8 hours being the fanboy writing about it. It was too much. I wanted to go home, sit on the couch, have a drink, and shoot people on PlayStation. I wanted to have a normal existence, dude, And it was just too much. And then the conventions came online, and then it was suddenly I had 3 jobs.
Right.
And it was too much. Something had to give, especially the older I get. I got less and less oomph under the hood, And so I have to balance things. But so it is true. If you're doing something and suddenly you feel dead inside about it, or even worse, wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety about it.
Yep.
It's time to clock out.
It's time to call it.
It's time to clock it, because that will come across in everything that you do, everything that you write. Once the well is poisoned, it's poisoned. It ain't coming back.
It's time to walk away.
So that's eventually, after 24 years, that's what happened with TPA.
Well, you've done so much, so don't feel bad.
No, I look back and it's great, especially with people that I admire in the industry, and so many people came up, reading TPA, from Ted Doherty and John Cook to folks that are in Timbuktu that I've never met in person, but they've written over the years and said, hey, I just want you to know that your thing really, just watching your videos, I just don't feel like anybody connects with me, and just your videos or whatever got me through some really hard times, and so looking back at that stuff, if I had to do it all over again in a heartbeat, I would do that again. But definitely time to move on, because I believe life comes in seasons, and seasons end. I mean, everything ends in life, and that's just the way it is. And you just gotta play your cards right, and hopefully not mess up too many things in life, and so you can continue moving forward and on to new adventures.
I will say this, and if I don't stop you, we're going to be here for another 5 hours.
I know.
I could relate. I know one day I will no longer want to scare act. I think I want to get more into creative writing, and just I kind of feel like I rediscovered that passion. And have you been to Evermore in Utah, or have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. Josh Shipley. I've known Josh Shipley for a long time, and he was one of the creatives, behind creating Evermore, and never got out there to see it. Now, I think if it's not closed, I think it's being run by somebody. I'm not sure. There's something funky happened with it recently, I think.
My good friend Emmanuel Manjivar and Menji Speak, who does a voiceover on the podcast, he went recently.
Yeah.
And he's like, everyone's cosplaying. So
it is. That's like it's an imaginary. I mean, it's for your imagination to run wild there.
So you and me are going to go
to Utah. The problem is Vegas gets in the way.
Well,
By the time we hit Vegas,
Vegas,
you just stop. There's like nothing. I've never been past Vegas that way because Vegas.
So we're going to go. We'll stop in Vegas. And then we're going to bring a friend of mine who does prosthetic makeup. We're going to turn you into a dwarf.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be like an orc.
All right.
And we'll put you in armor, maybe like a battle axe or
I'll be
two.
like Gimli. Yeah,
there you go. And then we'll come up with accents and whatever, and we'll go role play and check out the parks.
Nobody tosses a dwarf. Yeah, right?
Alrighty. So I think we're geez, we could talk forever. We have way too much in common. So I think we're at a stopping point. Again, this is episode 20 with Rick West. Excuse me, creative director and co-founder of Midsummer Scream. We're going to come back and talk about Awaken the Spirits and some other stuff you got going on. And we'll be right back, guys.
You're listening to the Creepcast.
Don't you dare try to escape. The Creepcast with Rick Creeper shall return.
Hey everybody, this is Rick Creeper 11 from the Creepcast podcast. Once again, you're hearing my voice because we're talking about vampfangs.com. Yes, vampfangs.com. Vampfangs has been established since 1993 out of Salem, Massachusetts, New England's only vampire shop. That sounds kind of spooky. Host of the Endless Night Salem's Vampire Ball. I can speak about this personally because I've purchased things from them. Some of the various haunts or like horror cosplay photo shoots that I've done, I've acquired my fangs. More importantly, my contacts, which are FDA compliant, approved, and verified from your eye doctor, is shipped here in the good old US of A. So they came through for me. I've had bad experiences with other companies where contacts weren't the greatest quality or they're shipped overseas, so either they're really bad quality or just didn't arrive here on time. So Vampfangs was definitely a lifesaver, but they have other things as well. I already mentioned special effect contacts. They have special effect makeup, fangs, apparel, sunglasses, bags, fragrances, chokers, you name it. And everything is based out of Salem, Massachusetts, and they've got a cool little store over there. Check them out, vampfangs.com online or at Vampfangs Official at Instagram. Tell them Rick Creeper sent you. You guys will love it. Trust me. Check them out. Vampfangs Official, Instagram. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Where do you think you're going? There is no escape from the Creepcast with Rick Creeper.
You're listening to the Creepcast.
Okay, guys, we're back at it. We're just going to jump into this. I'm here with Rick West, creative director and co-founder of Midsummer Scream. All right, so how did you go from being a blogger to a creative director / show writer?
Oh man, overnight. No, actually, it was actually kind of. And first of all, boy, if you guys listening have made it this far, this is amazing. This is like so long. It should be like 2 sections. It should be like BC and AD, right? That's how long this is.
It's going to be a 3-part segment.
Here we go. So, like I've been saying, everything begats, right? So, my creative writing as a little kid, kind of then created years later, TPA. And then through TPA, I started working with all the folks in the industry that were creating the attractions that I loved and that we covered. And it wasn't until I was a cast member at Disneyland that, again, this is before Twitter, this is before digital media, this is before every 12 and 13-year-old knows that there is, the TEA or things out there where they can get into, working in attractions or whatever. There was nothing like this. And I mean, I barely knew when I was working at Disneyland, I barely knew what Imagineers did. It just was not out there. And it wasn't until I was working at Splash Mountain one day outside. They were cycling logs before the attraction had ever opened to the public. And I just heard this voice say, "Hi." And I turned around and it was Tony Baxter. And I was just like, "Holy shit, you're Tony Baxter." And it was just one of those, oh, shit moments. And it was the first time I actually ever talked to him. And he's like, "Hey, my name's Tony." And I was like, "I know exactly who you are." You know, I was trying not to geek out. I was
totally
a cast member.
geeking out.
And I was like, yeah, dying inside. And I was like, oh my God. And he literally stood with me and talked for the better part of an hour about his history with the company, with Splash. And because, of course, I had a million questions about Splash. And then he said something about show writing. He goes, "Oh, well, have you ever thought about getting into show writing?" And I was like, What show writing? And at that point, his best friend and partner in business at Imagineering came up. His name was Bruce Gordon. And Bruce came up. He goes, "Well, here's my show writer on Splash right here. He can tell you what it is." And Bruce Gordon proceeded to tell me it's basically before anything else is done, there are people that are the once upon a time guys and gals. You know, you have a blank piece of paper and you write, "Once upon a time, there was a Splash Mountain, you know, it was home to Brer Rabbit." There are story guys that then you hand off your words to artists and engineers, and they can, in their mind's eye, say, "Oh, okay, I know what that is." Or, you know, you're walking up to a stately southern mansion. It looks like a plantation style. It's white. It's got light green eaves and accents on the architecture. That's how you start painting your picture of the haunted mansion, right?
Is this the writing before, let's say,
this is the writing before anything.
Like storyboard?
This is like before anything. This is the blank page. This is the sandbox mode, right? For real. And people don't realize before anything ever happens, usually, there are words. There are the once upon a time guys, right? And so it didn't occur to me that there was a show writer for, you know, these things. It's not always been that way now. I've been fortunate enough to, I knew some of the old guys. Like I was pretty good with Mark Davis when he was alive, and he's legendary Imagineer, you know, and I remember asking Mark, you know, well, who was like the show writer for like Pirates or Mansion or any of these classics that you guys created? And it was kind of like, oh, there was no, we just kind of did it. You know, and that was the truth. It was like the same like small group of guys that would go out for their, 3-hour martini lunch and come up with what are some of the best attractions in the world to this day, like 50 years ago.
That must have been some good martinis.
Dude, must have been some great freaking company, man, just to be a fly on that wall. Imagine. But no, I mean, people say that X Atencio did a lot of that stuff, and X did that stuff. But I mean, there was nobody that was deemed a show writer until much later. And then there have been people at WDI that do this. And so I fuck up stick people. So my dad was an artist, and I can't even draw a stick person. So I can't draw straight. Dude, I definitely didn't get that. And so writing, I was like, okay. And so I was like, this is it. So back in the day when you were a cast member at Disneyland, you could sign up to go on a 3-hour tour of Walt Disney Imagineering. And it would culminate in a one-on-one lunch with a real live Imagineer that you could pick their brain and talk to them and stuff. And so I signed up and I waited my 6 months or whatever hellish long time it was to go. And finally the day came and I went and I had this amazing tour of WDI. And saw all the behind-the-scenes stuff, models of shit they were working on. It was great. And then I had my lunch with this Imagineering partner, and I sat down, and he said, "So, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I know exactly what I want to do." Tony Baxter and Bruce Gordon said I should be a show writer. And for the next 5 minutes, this guy proceeded to tell me every reason why I would never be a designer.
Wow.
And destroyed me. And that's a whole other long, weird discussion, but this person was not in a good place in life, and it turns out that this person was just
projecting.
And it's still an asshole. Anyway, and so I basically, as a young, I was like 18 or 19, I literally came cross path with somebody that happened to have a WDI badge on at the time that just was an asshole and just wasn't happy. And I cried. I was 19 or so. I cried all the way home, driving from Glendale back to Irvine.
I don't blame you.
It was just shattered. If I had known what I know now, that there are a million shops out there you could work for, I would have been like, well, fuck you and your horse. I'm going to go to the next door and I'm going to keep knocking until I get a yes. There was none of that then. There was no social media to say, oh, well, there's something called Universal Creative. Oh, there's something called blah, 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 blah. There's Edema Group, all this stuff, right? There was none of that. I had no idea. I figured, oh, he's wearing the badge. I'm not. He knows I'm done. And it was devastating because I was so set that Tony had like shown me the way, and like Bruce Gordon, like the Jesus lights came down in front of Splash Mountain, and I found my calling.
And this prick knocked the wind out of your sails.
Oh, it blew up sunk my battleship, not even the wind, just completely. And so for literally 20 some odd years, if not more after that, I was resigned to doing menial jobs with my writing abilities. And I just kind of bounced around, and I was just resigned to the fact that TPA was here. So my calling in life was to be the guy that writes about those guys. And then one day, before I went to bed, I just like flipped through the Craigslist to look at job opportunities, and there was just this really just poorly worded, just like, hey, you're looking for somebody to do show writing from Blue Sky through install. And I'm like, well, somebody knows technical jargon, so whatever. So I just very flippantly responded and said, hey, I'd love to do it. This is my website. This is what I do. Hit me up. I figured it was like two kids in their parents' garage wanting to build shit or whatever. Turns out it was actually from Thinkwell, who's they're a really well-known company in the Burbank area. And I contacted a friend of mine who was fairly high up in the ranks there. His name is Dave Cobb. He's no longer with them. But Dave Cobb was there. And then a mentor of mine who actually had been Tony Baxter's right-hand man in everything from Epcot through the opening of Indy, Bob Baranek, he was also working at Thinkwell. And I said to them, so I got this, is this person like legit? And they're like, dude, that's like the head of human resources that's responding to you. And they're like, do whatever she wants and get it to her like now.
You're like right away.
And I was, and they said to me, dude, are you looking for a job? And I said, dude, I'm looking for a way not to kill everybody I work with in my current job every day. So yeah. And I had an interview, and it was interesting because my bread and butter was also potentially almost a stumbling block, because I went in and the interview was kind of like, well, hey, you seem to like check all the boxes here. You certainly know the industry, which is a lot more than, a lot of new people come in, they don't know much about the industry. They want to do writing or whatever. And they said, but we're kind of concerned because you have this fan site. And if you're working here on attractions and things for clients, like there's a lot of proprietary and really like top secret information here. So how's that going to work? And thank God I had Bob Baranek was sitting in on the interview, and I looked at him across the table and I said, how long have I known you? And he said, well, maybe at that point it was like, 15 years, or whatever. I said, how many times have I ever betrayed your trust with TPA? And he goes, not once. Not once. And that was the end of that question. Long story short, I got the job literally 72 hours later. My life changed.
And this is with Thinkwell?
Yeah, I went from hating my job, hating my existence, not even making enough money to make ends meet, to suddenly stepping through the looking glass and becoming one of those guys that I had always written about. It was like a really like a pinch me moment. Right. It was, and the money was like, compared to what I was making, the money in entertainment is ridiculous. And then getting paid to literally go to work and play every day and to do shit that you could do like in your sleep, I almost felt guilty. I was like, this is like, there's something wrong
there's a catch.
There's something like completely wrong. And that was literally, at this point, this was like 10 years ago. So this is my 10th year now in the industry. And I've bounced around because it's a very nomadic industry. Being a permanent show writer for one company is like a luxury that most companies just don't have, right? So I remember after about a year and a half, kind of getting my walking papers from Thinkwell, and I was devastated. I was like, whoa, what did I do? I must have really fucked something up. And it was really hard. It was very hard. And everybody was like, no, that's the way it goes. You're going to get something better now. And the cool thing is, now that you have a year with Thinkwell, year and a half with Thinkwell, now you can charge more at your next job. And I'm like, dude, no one's paying me more than this. 10 years later, I got paid more. So that's the way it worked. And there was always another phone call or another email. Right when I thought, oh, shit, the ride's over, the wave's over, there's always another phone call, And so I've been very fortunate, Show writers, I like to say the really good show writers, and this is a whole other thing that I could get into, and it's a rant that people that know me know well. Everybody thinks they're a writer. You're not. You're not. So I've read a lot of quote unquote show writing that's just like basically like maybe 5th or 6th grade level writing, and it's not good. So finding a really good show writer in the industry is kind of like finding the white buffalo.
Is it a small industry?
It's very small.
Very tight.
Everybody knows everybody. It's very nomadic. It's very incestuous in that once you become like the go-to guy for somebody, even though there are people that are much better than you are, that guy always gets the job for a lot more money than you would ever get paid doing that job. So that's kind of maddening like that. But that's the way it's going to be in every bit of entertainment. Entertainment industry, whether in music, movies, themed entertainment, it's all very, very similar. So this is nothing new to anybody that's into this type of gig work and all that. Everybody encounters this. There's always people that are much better for the job that never get the job because that's always the go-to guy or girl for this stuff. I've just been very fortunate in that I've, an established a reputation for doing really good work, and I've bounced around now. It's easier to say that I've pretty much worked and done things for everybody except WDI. That's the easier way to hammer out my 2-second, resume pitch. I've worked on things for Middle Eastern and Chinese clients for projects that would never see the light of day. And if they did, they're in places of the earth that you would never want to go, even if you were in trouble. And I've done stuff for the Universal Park that's being built in Beijing right now. I did some stuff for that. So it's been great. And currently I'm working with a company called Idea Attack, which is in Pasadena. Cool. And that's that. I have that. Then I have Midsummer. That's kind of my second job. And so I am finally keeping busy. Now, COVID, the world ended and really took this industry off at the knees.
Yeah, that was rough last year.
It destroyed. So I literally went at least a year without really having any work. Maybe a couple like short burn, like here's a week here on a project for like zero money.
Wow.
But it's been a devastating year. So finally that drought, thank God, knock wood, has ended. And we're kind of like on a roll now again.
Getting back to
it. Yeah. But that's kind of how it transitioned. So it was I was writing about these guys, suddenly became one of these guys, but then would work all day as one of those guys and then go home and be one of the guys writing about those guys again. It was a really weird existence, living 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And it just ultimately, the bigger clients I got and started working with, the writing was on the wall that just the Disney, the Universal, they were not going to be as understanding as the small houses about TPA. And it was the point where it was just like, well, and again, it was a culmination of me not having the bandwidth physically and mentally, not having the time physically to do, my job, TPA and Midsummer or whatever I was doing at the time. So something had to give. And so, like I said, also the writing was on the wall. Things were shifting, and TPA was not as wanted in the trenches as mommy bloggers. So that was it. That was the part that got let go.
I hope you guys were paying attention. Midsummer Scream is Rick West's second job. So just imagine how hard he's working to provide these events for us, and he's wearing multiple hats, holding down a day job. So that's a lot.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, all of us behind Midsummer Scream, we all have our own jobs and all that. Yeah. So I mean, David is an event producer, and this is like his event.
Yeah.
So he keeps very busy year-round. It takes about 18 months to really plan out one of our Midsummer Scream shows. So he's very busy, obviously, with that, but he does his other things, and he's just launched his new, he's got a sci-fi and fantasy con that he's working on that's going to be coming. So he's got his own things going on, and Claire does her things, you know, also during the week. Gary Baker, he owns an AV company. That's why we have such bitchin' AV at Midsummer Scream, because he actually started doing our AV when we were Scare LA. He started doing the AV for us, and you know, he was so damn good, became one of the family, you know. So yeah, we have our day things that we do, and then Midsummer is certainly a huge part of our lives now. Yeah.
Quick side note about Gary Baker. I ran into him at I forget the shop right there at the marketplace in Knott's.
Oh yeah.
We were geeking out on the I forget the name. It's Department 54.
Yeah, Department 50. He loves all the Halloween. You should see his house, dude. His house looks like that display that's in that shop.
We were geeking out with it, and I'm like, hey, we started talking, and we introduced each other. I'm like, oh, I know you, dude. And he's, oh yeah, okay. And just ever since then, we became friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
We're just like, you know, just sharing a conversation. I'm like, yeah, I've been wanting to buy this, but I don't know. And it was one of the taste ofs. I think it was Taste of Knott's.
Yeah.
But didn't know who the man was until we started talking.
He's at Knott's a lot, and he's there a lot now because he works with the Bob Baker Marionettes.
Okay.
And so they've got a big thing with Knott's now, and so he's there with all the time with that group as well. So he's a busy boy too. He's a very busy man.
And he was behind what is it over in the Griffith Park, the trains?
Oh yeah, he was the guy. Ghost Train.
Ghost Train, yeah.
Yeah. The LA Live Steamers. He was Ghost Train guy. Yeah.
I totally love that. Speaking of Knott's, what did you do for Knott's when you were there?
Oh man, for a minute. Well, so I hired in, at that point, God, I don't even know where I was in my life. I'm sure I was just like, I needed money. I needed a job. So I hired in as line control.
Okay.
For Not Scary Farm 1 year. And they like loved it because I was the guy coming that had the Disneyland knowledge, and the fact that I had worked on Splash Mountain outside guest control, you know, when the mountain opened and all that.
Makes sense.
They're like, this is the guy. And so I came into Disney, and I was in charge of, I was the guy that was in charge of sending everybody on their break and making sure that rotations were working for line control and all that cool stuff. And that's back in the day when the lines for the log ride and mine train would run parallel and end up all the way over by the corkscrew.
I remember.
You know, so you'd get in those lines for one of those attractions, and you're there for, 2 hours. He's huge, and they have the snow fencing, that separated the lines. And then I was in charge of the crossover there that would, you'd bring the rope across and hold up traffic so the line could move, Yeah, that was all just a big, bold concept. And we did all that with the line control. And the year that I was there, I want to say it was 92. It was whatever year that Lair of the Vampire was in Studio K.
Ooh, that was...
Because I was working that line. When I wasn't breaking everybody, I was working that line, and I was like, what in the hell is going on in here that this line just doesn't move? And it was Lair of the Vampire because it was taking groups from show moment to show moment, which really doesn't work at a theme park when you're trying to move thousands of people through.
Right.
But it was Lair of the Vampire, I found out. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then I went in and saw it, and it was great. But after that, I made it very clear to them that I wanted to stay on and work at Knott's. That year, I was the only person from line control to get called back from that group, from the Haunt team, to work in operations, which is ride operators at Knott's, for the Christmas season.
Okay.
And so I hired in as that and was trained on all of the rides in Fiesta Village except Montezuma's Revenge. And that's a seniority type thing. And I worked there for a couple months. And unfortunately, they were so slow back then because remember, Knott's was a different animal. And this is back when like even Disneyland had seasons, right? Where you'd go in and there's no line for Pirates. There's no line for Mansion. Not anymore.
Not anymore, nope.
But Knott's was very much that way too. You'd have days where it was like, is the park open? Did somebody forget to open the gate? Because like no one's here. And I just got no hours. I got no hours and it killed me, but I had to quit Knott's. Which is really weird saying that I quit a theme park, but I had to quit Knott's. And so that was my short jaunt there. And side note, bonus fact, fun fact, the hardest attraction, even though I've worked Pirates and Mansion, the hardest attraction that I ever worked that was so damn hard was the Bud Hurlbutt Carousel in Fiesta Village.
Really?
Dude, because it was all handbrake. It was all like the mechanical old school shit. You didn't just press a button and it did its thing.
You didn't stand there and just text and watch.
No, it was you had to do it, and like you had to learn how to jump off the thing. And I'm like, the guy told me, he's like, if you don't jump off this just right, you can really hurt yourself. And I'm like, dude, it's
appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a fucking carousel, right? And so I jump off and I nearly blew my knee out. I mean, because I did it wrong.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm kidding. It's no joke. This ride's no joke. It was the hardest thing that I ever had to learn. Was a freaking merry-go-round. And so huge respect for everybody that works these attractions everywhere. But so yeah, that was my stint at Knott's. And then years later, I hired in for a minute to work in. I was really excited. I thought it was going to be the hiring came from the marketing department. And I thought, oh my God, knowing everybody already with TPA and all this and knowing Haunt inside and out in the park, I'm going to be amazing in their marketing department. But it was for sales side of it. So I basically had a phone list of companies and people that I was supposed to like cold call all day. Hey, do you want to have a picnic at Knott's Berry Farm? Here are the rates.
Really? They had you do sales?
Which is like, so not me. And I was like, dude, this is not me.
Why would they have you do that?
Dude, that's the $64,000 question, dude. I don't know. So I was really unhappy with that. And it was really awkward because at the same time, I'm Mr. TPA there.
Yeah.
It was really freaking awkward. Really awkward. Didn't have a happy ending. Fortunately, it didn't have an impact on my relationship with them as far as TPA goes. But it was not great. That was not a great match with me. I was super unhappy. I became the actual guy that called in sick all the time and just didn't go to work and
just weren't feeling it.
It was not a good time in my life personally, and I was just like, nah, this is not me. So that was the end of my my employment with Knott's, but I certainly have a very long, colorful, and very productive history with Knott's.
Again, I can see you work in certain rides. I can see you in the flannel and the what is it, suspenders work in the log ride.
Dude, I don't even remember what my Fiesta Village costume was, but I'm sure it was so not flattering. Dude, so there's not much beyond black shorts and a Haunt type of shirt that is flattering on me. So I'm sure I looked like a monkey. All I needed was the organ grinder. To go along with me.
So we're gonna flash forward and talk about Midsummer Scream.
Let's do it.
Remind me, what was the first year?
2016.
My experience, I got there late, couldn't find parking, drove around for about an hour.
Because Long Beach, yes.
And then I was like, okay, I'm leaving. Next year, I read a blog. It says, get there early, find parking, do this. I was in line by 10, and I was so cracked out on Starbucks. And I just cannot wait to get in.
My mantra always was and always will be, as long as we're in Long Beach, get there super early, park, go have breakfast across the street, and then come get in line.
I learned the hard way ever since that one year, and I'm like, damn you, Long Beach. I was shaking my fist like an old man in the city of Long Beach. What do you remember about what's the most memorable thing about the first year? Was it just a blur? Was it just something that you not necessarily felt overwhelmed, but just like sensory overload? Just what was your first year experience of Midsummer?
Yes. You know what? The doors coming open and people streaming in, and just the idea that, holy shit, we had 4 months and we've pulled this off. And look how big this is. For then it was big. I was like, look how big this is. We were very proud of ourselves that we had done that. We had just had our huge, really unfortunate breakup with Scarlet. And that's where, about 90% of the team came over and created Midsummer Scream. But again, we had 4 months. And to create a full-blown convention that's at least big enough to go in the Long Beach Convention Center, dude, you are like on crack if you've never done anything like that before. Fortunately, we had done Scarlet for several years before that. So we knew, we had the template of what makes it work.
The jumping point.
And so it was just the time, right? It was the time and no need to get really into the weeds about what happened with Scarlet, but it was just an internal conflict, and it was an ugly one, and it was one that we could not move forward with leadership between the two people that created the show. And so I sided with David Markland because he was the one who invited me to help Scare LA become a thing. And frankly, he was being done dirt, and sided with him. And so with David, Gary became very involved. And it was actually Gary. Gary was the one who was like, well, we have to do something beyond. He did our AV for Scare LA. And so he was so proud of what he did and so amazed at the community that would show up to Scare LA. When it became apparent that everything was done in shambles, Gary was the one who was really like, no, we created something really special here.
We got to do something
you
else.
You have to. And it was just like, well, Gary, that's really sweet of you, but conventions don't grow on trees. These are hard animals to and they're expensive animals. And Gary was like, well, no, we will have a way. I'll fund it if I need to. And he was just like determined. And I was like, man, because the breakup of Scare LA was like really messy and really just emotionally and mentally taxing. And I was just like, dude, I don't know that I want to do it anymore. I mean, I'm doing my theme park stuff. I've got TPA. I don't need this kind of shit. I don't need this kind of drama. And so, we talked about it, and Gary kept percolating on it with David, and David came to me. He said, look, you know what? My girlfriend is going to come aboard, Claire, and Gary wants to do this. He's going to be a part of this. And dude, we want to do it. We're going to give it a try. Bottom line is, we can't do this without you. Because the without me part was the haunt community, the relationship with the theme parks, because I brought the theme parks to Scare LA, all that stuff. And I'm like, great, no pressure. And so it's like one of those things where like everybody's looking at you with puppy dog eyes, and I'm like, well, okay. And then it was like, we're off to the races. Well, where do we do this? What do we call it? It was very fast. So we had 4 months. Gary, because he has his own AV company, which is Call Brothers. They had a relationship already with Long Beach Convention Center. And Gary was like, well, how about Long Beach? I know these folks over here. It's a great location, blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, okay. And here's a seed then that would be planted for years later. The last year that any of us worked on Scare LA was when we brought it to the Pasadena Convention Center.
Makes sense.
And so it was very successful there, but also very apparent that we were growing at a really freakish rate for a convention. The growth that we experienced with Scare LA was just like off the charts. And so we were confident that we could pull off another convention. So I came up with the name Midsummer Scream. And surprisingly enough, the team kind of hemmed and hawed about it. They weren't in love with it at first.
Really? I think it's cool.
Which is weird because now you can't imagine it being called anything else, right? But it was not like, oh my God, we're in love with this.
They're like,
it was just kind of like, And it was just like, okay, well, it's informative. It tells you it's something spooky. It tells you kind of when it is. And people already know Midsummer Night's Dream, so it's kind of already in the collective vernacular. And then suddenly everybody was just kind of like, yeah, it's nothing else is better. So, yeah. And everybody fell in love with it. And now, like I said, you can't imagine it being called anything else. So the location came, the name came. Right away, the theme parks, I got on the horn with them, and they were like, we will march into the trenches with you, whatever you want us to do. So that was actually very easy. What wasn't easy was getting them then to not do Scare LA. So that became the very interesting, the vacillating between, well,
the two worlds.
We're with you guys, but, we are kind of, because it wasn't their personal feelings, it was the marketing folks and the corporate folks going, but yeah, we could double dip. We can get the community 2 times to come support us and do this. So it kind of was weird because suddenly we were fighting a monster that we had created, which was really weird. And it's a really ugly situation, to be honest. And so that's what happened with that. We know what happened between the 2 conventions. And Midsummer is here and here to stay, as long as there's not an end of the world COVID thing going on. And that's kind of how Midsummer started. What was the question? But I mean, that was the genesis of Midsummer Scream.
So your first year experience is pretty.
It was blurry, dude. Yeah, that's what the question was. What was it like? It was just like it sounds. Like it was a whirlwind. We were mentally and physically exhausted. by the time that the doors opened, and it is this way every year. This doesn't change. When the doors open and the show really starts, there are so many moving pieces and there are so many things going on at once that you're responsible for as a team and an individual. But besides taking pictures, kissing babies, and all that stuff, right? All the stuff that's really, really going on behind the scenes. No, it's a blur. It goes by, the 8-hour day or whatever it is goes by so fast.
I could only imagine just.
Dude, it's the only memories I really have are like when we do the party afterwards, right?
Because you get to relax. There's no responsibility.
And that's it. And then we're off to the races again the next day when the alarm goes off at 5 and you're like, why did I accept those 10 drinks that people kept buying, But that's just the way it is. And really the way that I experience Midsummer every year literally is by listening to people's podcasts, to watching videos of the different presentations. It's a rarity when I can sit and watch an entire presentation that I'm not hosting. That's only happened maybe 2 or 3 times in the entire run that we've done Midsummer Scream. And so that's a rarity. It's always go, 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 go. I'm definitely no athlete, so my body feels like I've been hit 3 times by a truck at the end of it.
My feet hurt at the end of the day.
Well, it's the concrete.
Yeah.
It's walking on the concrete kills you.
Okay.
At the convention center. So yeah, it's a blur, and that doesn't change. It doesn't matter how well we're established at getting this stuff executed. It's still a blur because you never rest on your laurels.
My 2017 year experience, so I got there early.
Yeah.
I forget what blog I read. Had coffee. They let us in at 10:30.
We try to let everybody in early, at least into the Esplanade area, so you're not frying in the sun outside.
I got in, and I'm taking the escalator.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably wearing a stupid horror t-shirt like always. And then I see all the booths and everything, and I'm like, sensory overload. I'm like, okay, I want an event t-shirt, which I have to this day. And I bought the shirt right away, and I was wearing, it's Tino Evil who makes the shirts.
Yeah, they're great partners. Yeah,
They
love
make
them.
They make t-shirts for Zombie Donuts, which is a donut shop in Fullerton, and I was wearing their shirt. They're like, "Hey, Zombie Donuts, we know." They gave me free stickers and all that.
That's great. Yeah, they're great guys.
I must have spent about $500 the first hour.
Yeah.
Damn you, Trick or Treat Studios. I was walking around. I'm like, oh, soap, pins, masks, more t-shirts, more junk I don't need. And I was like, okay, I need to calm down. I'm too cracked out on a red eye from Starbucks. So I went and had 2 cocktails and I kind of mellowed out. I went into the Hall of Shadows and walking around by myself. Then one of the off auditoriums, there was, I think it was Are You Afraid of the Dark presentation.
Yep.
I went there.
It's in our ballroom, up in the grand ballroom upstairs. Yeah.
I went there and I cooled off. And then I was there the entire time by myself. Flash forward 2018, I got casted to work with Sinister Point. This is when they had the Boogeyman Express bar. I walk in, they're like, "Hey, Rick," I'm like, and I'm new to the industry, never worked, and we're walking around. And I met all the people from Sinister Point, talking to Jeff from Sinister Point, just buying stuff again. Trick or Treat Studios. They saw me coming. They're, "Hey, come buy more stuff you don't need." I'm like, "Okay, thanks."
Was that the year that Jeff brought that big ass banner?
Yeah,
It was like the biggest banner I think I've ever seen in my life.
It was like the Boogeyman Express bar, And they were all in. There was a cool photo op, and then that was when who had the setup for the video store?
Oh, it was a Slashback Video. Yeah. That was another one of our bar locations.
That was cool. I think
Slashback.
I think actually that's where I started drinking a little bit, to take the edge off. And we're just walking around. Flash forward to 2019. My friend Jessica, who's done makeup on for the haunt industry, she's like, this is when we sat down. She's like, "Hey, let's do a character for Midsummer." I'm okay. Long story short, we did like this rockabilly handsome devil with a prosthetic from Scream Team, and I had she pumped up my hair and had like a Letterman jacket. I was so overwhelmed because I'm like, first of all, I had to shave off my beard so like Baby Huey. No one's gonna get that reference. And then we got there, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna makeup. I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like Beetlejuice one-liners, and then people were coming up to me. The whole day was a blur.
Yeah.
The next day,
picture.
Yeah, pictures. They're like, "Can we take a picture?"
Yeah.
But I saw John Cook. I gave him the hard time. I razzled him. I messed with his scare actors because remember, Hayride was right there.
They had a beautiful setup.
I was giving them all a hard time, and I kept picking on him. And he looked at my friend Jessica. He's like, "Can you get your devil off of me?" I'm like, "Hey man, I'm just messing with you." And he's like, he understood. Larry Bones. I was going up to him being weird, and just all these people, and it was just. The day was a blur, and I had a blast. I met other people from the Scream Team prosthetics there. The next day, this is when Sinister Point and Jeff had the Ready or Not experience.
Yes.
That was, I feel like a kid playing
That was in one of our breakout rooms.
So cool. I mean, I think I cried at the end of the day because I was so emotional.
Yeah.
But it was just like, again, the little I did, that was a complete blur. I'm just like, what the hell? The weekend's gone? And I'm like, my feet hurt. I had a blast. I ate like hell. I don't even, if you know this, I got food poisoning.
Oof.
That night, I'm not going to say the restaurant, but it's in Buena Park down the street from Knott's. I had my audition for Scary Farm the following morning.
Oh, no.
I slept maybe 2 hours. And it was coming out of both ends.
Yeah, yeah.
And
the human fountain.
And my friend Allison from Sinister Point's like, hey, I'm here. Her audition was at 8:15. Mine was at 8. I was like, I'm not going to make it. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm not going to make it. And then I got casted in Dark Harbor anyway. So, but yeah, I was just like, I haven't slept. I'm exhausted. And I probably lost about 15 pounds worth of water weight. You know, I probably didn't need makeup. It looked horrible. But yeah,
right.
But that was a fun weekend.
Yeah, man.
So
I do remember that because there were a lot of people from Knott's going, dude, our auditions are like right after Midsummer Scream. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So let's talk about what's going on in August.
Oh, man. Okay, so of course, anybody and everybody that's listening to this, whether it's timely listening to it or in the future, knows that COVID landed and that basically ended life as we knew it. So we really thought that we were going to be able. So the thing that, back it up a second, the thing that was really cool, that was our silver lining, was last year, because like I said, it takes about 18 months or so to really plan out a midsummer show. So by the time that we had to cancel the 2020 Midsummer Scream, which was going to be our 5th anniversary show.
I cried.
You're not the only one. When we canceled that, we already knew that we had secured the dates for the next year, and we secured them a lot earlier. So that when we made the press release, we knew that it was going to be, well, yeah, we don't get to do this, but we're coming a month earlier next year, so you don't have to wait. Boy, in hindsight 2020, we were like, oh my God, this COVID thing is not ending. And now rather than being at the end of the summer, now we planned it for like fucking July. And it's like, no, what do we do? And then the people online, and God bless the fans. I obviously we're nothing without the fans. But it's one of those things like Schwarzenegger said in T2, stop helping. You know, where everybody's like, well, I don't know. They could just move it. Just move Midsummer Scream till later in the summer. You don't just move, right?
The amount of time that you
One
invested.
does not just move a Midsummer Scream. Because, number one, the venue's booked for the rest of the year. Solid, right? Like I said, we have to book a year out.
Wow.
At least. So the venue's already booked. Vendors are already booked, and they're also doing their own shows and their own lives. So you don't just say, hey, you know what? We're going to bump it back 2 months. We'll see you guys. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way at all. Plus, the farther we move it back in the summer, you really start bumping into problems with parks building their haunts, home haunters building their stuff, ain't got time for Midsummer Scream.
Yep.
So everything that we do, trust me, is very well orchestrated, very well thought out, and pretty immovable. So at that point, you really have two choices. You either proceed or you don't. You know, it's a big train, and once it gets moving, you stop or you keep moving. Those are your options. And so, God, we had to make the really hard decision to pull the plug again, the second year in a row, which was devastating for us. I mean, devastating for us. Because, obviously we do this for the community, but it's a business. It's a very serious business for all of us. And so devastating business-wise for us to go dormant for a second year. Are you kidding? And so basically as well, we're going to go dormant, but we have this thing that we've been doing the past 2 years or so called Season Screamings. We have been doing it at Sweet Hollywood at the Hollywood and Highland Complex. Well, their lease ran out, so that we knew that we were going to have to move anyway to find a different venue for Season Screamings. And, I said to David, I said, well, obviously, the door closes, another one is open. This is really the time now for us to embiggen the Season Screamings thing and really make it a thing that's under the Midsummer umbrella. So we have 2 shows, a year. And there was a lot of discussion about that because Midsummer's a lot of work. To do these things, it's a lot of work. That's why everybody and their mother doesn't have their own convention.
Exactly.
It's like haunters will understand too. it's like having your own haunt. People don't realize what goes into doing something like that.
It's not fun.
So it's a lot, it's a lot. And so we just happen to have a very good team at what we do. And so, we said, well, let's do Season Screaming somewhere. And then it was like, well, where are we going to do it? And then David's like, well, we're talking to Pasadena. The lady that worked with us when we were Scare LA there was still there. And so she was like, yes, please come to Pasadena. And so we did, and that's where Season Screamings will be. And that really was our focus. We've shifted to that. I've started working on the Hall of Yuletide Spirits.
That name alone.
It's fun, right? I mean, right. People get right away what it is. And, working with the haunters who like pretty much all said, yes, please. We want to do a spooky Christmas haunt type thing. That'd be great. And so that's really been the focus. Once again, Gary Baker, behind the scenes, is just needling the shit out of David, saying, we have to do something. Nobody wants to see another online thing. I mean, I think we're all Zoomed to death, right? None of us really kind of wanted to do. I mean, I think I can speak for the team. Nobody was excited to do another online, thing for the day. We knew we had to do something, and that's what it was kind of looking like, but it was like, oh, these, And Gary was like, we can do something else. There's got to be something we can. Things are opening up. We can do something. And it just kind of happened where David he reached out to Pasadena and said, well, we're thinking about it. And it was like, hey, this weekend has opened up. It's available. Do you guys want it? And I literally got a text from David saying, I'm thinking this weekend. Really, really thinking we can maybe pull the trigger on this. And I was like, dude, this is so much while I still have eye boogers. I'm like trying to read this text. I'm going, what in the hell is he on? And I'm like, that's like 2 months away, dude. And I was like, okay, does it? And I had some questions. I was like, does it make sense? Can we do it? Can we pull it off? Like, what are the risks? Like, what? And the big thing is, what are the restrictions going to be? Because we want to do the show that we want to do, not a show that is lame duck because of things out of our. That's one of the reasons we decided to not do Midsummer Scream in any form, because especially for the 5th anniversary, I like told the team like point blank, I was like, I would rather do no show than do a show that's a lame duck that people. The idea of anybody walking out of Midsummer going, oh well, they did the best they could. F that noise. That's like, I never want to hear that. I want people's minds melted every time they leave one of our shows. Going, I can't believe that it was better than last year. Right? Because that's the trajectory we're on. And whether it's the zombie apocalypse or COVID or whatever, I would rather not do anything and just wait for shit to blow over than to go into something and, well, they tried. No way. That's not the Midsummer brand. And that's not what this community deserves, or frankly wants to pay money to go see, right? So the question was, what is season? What is this summer thing? What is it going to be? And we're like, well, it's definitely not Midsummer. Okay. So I mean, Pasadena in itself is much smaller than Long Beach. In fact, everything that we can do at Pasadena would fit into the Hall of Shadows in Long Beach. Oh, wow. So that's the size difference. That's a huge difference. Venue. Okay. It's a huge difference. So we're dealing with about a third the size of what we deal with in Long Beach. Makes it nice for us because you'd think that there's not as much work. There's a lot of work still because we're certainly not a team that's going to like rest on laurels and say, we got this. We never do that either. That's a dangerous lull to get in. And so we're working overtime on this to make it really bitchin'. But then the question is, well, what is it? And what is it going to be? And I said, well, right away, it's too soon to ask any haunter to build anything. Mm-hmm. So it was decided almost right away that we're not going to have a dark hall for this. Okay. It's just not fair to the haunters, and it would not probably come out very well. And we just don't want that. And we knew that this is a knockoff. This is a one, knock on wood, this is a one-time deal. One shot. Yeah. Right? And like Season Screamings, that's going to be an established show, and that will continue to grow over the years. And so, yeah, we're going to put a Hall of in that, right? And so anything that we do that replicates that, I think that our brand is A lot of vendors, more vendors than anybody else has, better presentations than anybody else has, and a hall of where the haunters are showcased. That's the template for a Midsummer show, right? Yeah. And so this ain't that. But we were trying to figure out, well, what's it going to be? Well, it's going to be, there are going to be presentations. We are going to have a main stage. Gary and his team are designing a really cool stage and setup for us. It's a slightly smaller. Like in Long Beach, the main stage seats about 2,100, 2,000 people. This is going to be about 1,300 or so for the main stage, which is still pretty freaking big. Bigger than a lot of conventions, would ever have. We're going to have over 200 vendors, which again, probably bigger than most conventions would have. We're going to have a few experiences, not a lot. We don't have breakout rooms to have like different haunts or even like live entertainment really so much. And again, no darkened halls. So there will be differences. And then David's like, well, what do we call this thing? I'm like, we need names like now. And so I said, Awaken the Spirits. And right away, David loved that. He goes, okay, I love that. That's great. And I said, but it's got to come with the exclamation point on the end because it's twofold. It is something that instantly every haunt and Disney fan or whatever, they're going to know that's from Haunted Mansion. So they instantly know that it's something spooky for the community. But it's also, with that exclamation point, it's also a call to action. Like, we haven't done anything. It's time to wake this community up, shake everything off. It's time to awaken the spirits. And David fell in love with that. That was literally like a 10-minute discussion, and we were off and running. That's it. That's what we're calling it. Start designing everything, and that's it. And we've had it's 2 months that we've really had to do this, and now we're less than 4 weeks away.
4 weeks away. So, as soon as I saw the posts, the notifications, everyone I knew went nuts.
Yeah, it kind of broke the internet when we made our first little inkling that something was coming.
I was getting messages on Instagram, texts, and just I gotta buy tickets. So I got my tickets for both days.
Yeah, nice.
It's gonna be the 14th,
August 14th and 15th. Yeah, at Pasadena Convention Center.
A weekend to celebrate Halloween spirit and kick off spooky season.
And we've got, with Midsummer, we really are proud that we've become the gateway to Halloween, right? We are the gateway to the spooky season. And that was another thing too. Gary is like, well, if we don't do it, somebody's going to do it. So we got to retain that. That's got to be our thing still. So, I've said this over and over again, and I'll say it. When you're at Awaken the Spirits, if you see Gary Baker there or walking around, or Gary will probably be in the console in the back of the main stage, take the time to thank him, because really Gary Baker is the reason that we are having Awaken the Spirits.
He's a very tiny man that looks like a wizard. And he's probably
the wizard back there. He's like the Oz. He's the great Oz back there.
Nicest man in the world. And he shot the shit with me, and just, I was like, wow, okay. And just the fact that everything you tell me about him, I'm like, he's definitely a pinnacle point.
Well, dude, he's the reason. He's the reason that, back in the day, he's like a major catalyst as to why Midsummer even exists. And he's definitely the reason that we pulled the trigger on Awaken the Spirits. So, so huge props to Gary for that. So everybody take your time, please, and thank him for that. Gary, I think of the four of us, I think Gary is in the shadows a lot. Like, he goes to haunts and events and stuff like that, but he's quiet and he just kind of like stays out of the spotlight or whatever. But, boy, he's the reason that Midsummer looks so good, AV wise, and sounds so good, and really he deserves a huge amount of credit for what we've become. And so take the time and say hi to Gary, introduce yourself, and thank him for continuing to needle everybody to do something this year. He's the reason. So so that was it. So we're off and running. Tickets are selling out really fast.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even anticipate selling tickets at the door. I mean, we're going to sell out.
It's something to do.
Yeah, man. It's going to sell out. We're really excited about that. And, we have great partners that are coming this year. We have presentations from Winchester Mystery House. They're coming down from Northern California. We've got, LA Haunted Hayride and Delusion, which that's a big deal. And those are both 13th floor. They're partners of ours, and they're certainly going to have a big part in everything. We got Six Flags Magic Mountain. They're coming with all their Fright Fest information for this year. And, we just announced Universal Studios is coming with Halloween Horror Nights. They're going to have a massive presence at Awaken the Spirits. They were very excited very early on about that. So everyone's going to get their HHN fix
I'm so excited for their themed mazes.
Dude, I'm really excited. We're all very excited that they, because it's tricky. It's a slippery slope when you tell everybody, well, we're not doing anything this year. They're like, okay, and they're off and running with their PR teams, planning their own rollout and everything now. And then suddenly we're like, okay, we were kidding. We're going to do a show. You come back and play with us.
Like, wait, come back.
It's hard logistically. Again, it's one of those things where it's not an okay type situation. They got to go through all the channels. They got to put everything on hold because they were planning on announcing this and this. So it's a big ordeal. So a lot of stuff has had to happen, and the planets have had to align to get everything, on board for Awaken the Spirits. And so it's very exciting, and it's going to be a great show. It's going to look like, smell like, feel like Midsummer Scream, but it's not Midsummer Scream, right? We're excited about it. We call it a pop-up, but it's, I guess, the midsummer version of a pop-up where it's like freaking huge, right? But we just got to reiterate to people that are longtime fans, as well as people that are new coming to this, it is presented and produced by Midsummer Scream. It is not Midsummer Scream.
I've had people that, I'm going to Midsummer. I'm like, next year, yes, but we're
Right.
going to Awaken the Spirits. They're like,
Yes.
oh, we know what I mean. I'm like, yes, I know.
Yeah, so we're all on the same page, and we're calling it like I tell Nova, I said I'm working on Midsummer stuff, so we know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
But it is going to look and feel a little bit different, and it's definitely size-wise. I mean, you're going to tell, whoa, this is a lot smaller than the Long Beach Convention Center. But it's great. It's a great venue. Pasadena's been wonderful to work with. They're excited about this. They're really excited about Season Screamings. And I'm sure that will be a venue that we continue to work with in years ahead.
I'm definitely looking forward to both the events.
Yeah.
I have tickets for... I almost cat out of the bag. I have tickets for one event, and I will be at the other event as well.
Cool. Yeah, man. It's exciting. We are going to sell tickets for Season Screamings at Awaken the Spirits.
Cool.
So that's going to be the first place that folks are going to be able to start buying their tickets for Season Screamings.
I'm not going to lie. I'm excited. It's like, you guys could have had a backyard barbecue, and I'll be excited to go to that.
Dude.
Just the fact that...
And it feels great for us, too.
Right?
It's, even though, yes, you do this, and it is like about an 18-month process, you get rusty if you don't do this. And suddenly I'm doing a lot of emailing and stuff for this show, which is a fraction of what I do for Midsummer. And I'm like, God damn, this is a lot of email and a lot of work I'm suddenly having to do. I've spent the past year and a half in my underwear on the couch playing PlayStation. I don't have any responsibilities. And now, shit, we're mounting a show in 2 months, and it's like, there's a lot of stuff going on here. But it's good because it'll make sure that we are really up and running for Season Screamings. And then it'll make double down sure that we're ready to deliver the best show you guys have ever seen next summer in Long Beach for our 5th anniversary Midsummer Scream.
I can't wait for all 3 shows. I'm excited. It's just, I know what you guys are able to produce. I've never been disappointed. I've gotten emotional, and just, I'm like, yes, finally, we're getting something spooky in the community. Finally. Man. And what's funny is, it's not just here locally in Southern California. I have listeners who are from Canada, and they reached out to me. They're like, we want to come down just to experience this. I know a makeup artist in Boston. She's like, I need to come to this.
Sure.
I was like, it's the biggest. You got to come check them all out. Come down to Southern California. And so thank you for
man,
all the hard work and putting
it's
that
crazy.
together.
There are people flying in from all over the world for Midsummer Scream.
It's nuts.
And, people will fly in from regions beyond for Awaken the Spirits as well. And it's just, it's very gratifying. It's gratifying that people are going to take the time, spend the money to come spend a weekend with us. That's very, very cool. And again, it goes back to that internal compass thing where it's cool to know that things that we think would be cool show that we there's no magic in like, people are like, well, what's the magic equation of creating a Midsummer Scream? We just have a really good team, and the team completely believes in creating the show that we want to see, that we would want to go to.
Exactly.
That's it. There's no magic bean. There's no magic spell. There's no incantation. It's just creating something that we, as Halloween nerds and lovers, would want to go see. And it just so happens that we each excel at different disciplines and have different contacts and know-how, and it kind of all comes together and makes something very special. And then obviously the cherry on that is that we are nothing without the community. So you can plan until the cows come home, and you could have the most bitchin' ideas and layout, but if nobody comes through your doors when you open, you ain't got anything except Cricket Fest, right? So we are very keenly aware that we are held to a certain standard by the community. We are regarded in a certain way by the community, and we feel that responsibility, and that responsibility pushes us every time we do something to do it bigger and better than we've ever done it before. And so when Midsummer does return to Long Beach, we're going to have the experience of Awaken the Spirits and of Season Screamings to bring our 5th anniversary finally show, to life in ways that, we hadn't maybe even thought about before. And we're going to have 3 days of Season Screamings. We're going to have 3 days of Midsummer Scream.
Yes.
And it's just going to be wonderful. We can't wait for it. It's going to be really exciting. We got to say, Season Screamings, don't worry about the dates. Just remember it's the weekend before Christmas.
Yes, exactly.
That's the easiest way to remember it. I'm horrible with numbers. So people say, hey, Rick, when is Season Screamings? And I'm like, I don't know.
But it's the weekend
before Christmas. So that's the easiest way to do that. I think it's 17th through 19th. But I mean, I think that's the way to do that. Yeah, and so it's going to be great to see, because we've missed the hell out of the community. We really have. We did Horror Buzz and Midsummer partnered up and did our screaming room at the Frida
Cinemas
last weekend. And it was great. It was great to see the community come together for that. Horror Buzz did a great job with that. And, it's just, we're getting these little tastes of normal life back and what it's like to actually share moments with other human beings.
Things are coming back,
know. And so it's been a long journey, and everybody has gone through a lot in the past year and a half. I know that I speak personally and professionally. It's been pretty devastating the past year and a half.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And, people that we know have passed away, and, we make light of it and say the zombie apocalypse and blah, 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 blah. We know, we're very keenly aware that it's not been fun at all. And businesses have been lost, families have been torn apart, careers have ended, lives have ended. I mean, this is serious shit that we've all gone through. And there's no way that any one of us comes out the other end the same person that we were going into it. We all are going to have our own versions of PTSD from this. I suffer from major issues with anxiety and depression. Mm-hmm. And so there have been really hard moments for me in all of this. So I get that. And God, if you're listening and you have problems and struggles with these things, talk to somebody, talk to your friends, talk to somebody about this. You're not alone. I mean, everybody has dealt with this. And professionals in the themed entertainment industry that I talk to, or that are still working, I mean, our industry has been cut off at the knees. This isn't just something that happened in Southern California where we can't have a convention here and there.
No, it's happening.
The themed entertainment world has come to a stop because it's a global platform that we work on. And every village, every hamlet, every whatever around the world, we are all in singularity at this moment, which is really mind-bending to think about. We were watching a video, we watch videos of YouTubers, and they're walking around a little village in Italy, and they still have the same mask required signs on their doors as we do, at 7-Eleven here, in Santa Ana. So it's just, it's crazy to wrap your head around that. It's almost impossible, really, to wrap your head around that. But I mean, we all are coming out of this, and we'll come through this as a community. And we're going to all have our bruises and cuts from it. But just the fact that we all are going to be in a place where we can get together and just revel in the fact that we can feel somewhat normal again, dude, that's amazing. That's what this community is all about, because there's no better community in the world. And that's why Midsummer exists right here in Southern California. Because really, it really can't happen anywhere else. Because this community is very special, and the people that make it up are a breed of their own. And we are here to serve, and we are here to deliver, and we anticipate on doing that for many more years to come.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for all the hard work. I'm looking forward to Awaken the Spirits in August. I'm looking forward to Season Screaming in December, and then Midsummer next year.
Yes, sir.
You shared so much.
probably too much. I feel naked. I've probably shared so much. But no, I mean, I love talking about things, and I love geeking out about, different things. And so, yeah, man, anytime you want to talk about role-playing games or Atari games or, whatever, I'm down,
serious.
dude.
We're
I'm
going,
down.
We're going to Utah.
Okay, Nova, we're going to Utah.
Nova, your witness. We're going to Utah.
We're going to Utah. We're going to take a road trip and head on out, and maybe we're going to fly. We'll fly to Utah. That way, it won't be like, well, we could stop in Vegas. No, you can't because you're at 40,000 feet and you're going 600 miles an hour.
Well, we could stop in Vegas and gamble a little bit, drink, and
first of all, there's no little bit. In Vegas, right? We're going to just stop and gamble and drink a little bit. There's no little bit in Vegas.
I'll make sure that we get to Evermore.
That's why I've never been to Calico.
Really?
Dude, I'm a big Knott's fan and all that shit, and I've never once been to Calico on the way to Vegas because Vegas. I could go to Vegas 500 times a year. I'm not stopping anywhere because Vegas.
It's cool during October.
I know.
It's pretty
I'm
cool.
aware of this.
They do real ghost tours too.
I know. I love all that, and I'm sure we will love Calico. I've never been because Vegas. So there's the challenge, sir, of getting us all to Utah because Vegas is in the way.
I'll get you guys to Utah, and then you're going to play D&D with me one night.
Okay, there we go.
We're going to do that. So
there we go. We could do that.
So, for those that know, I normally end every episode with a fantasy question.
Uh-oh, here we go.
And yours, sir.
Okay.
Jesus, that's a pretty big question. I didn't realize how much I typed.
Oh, here we go. So,
here in my little crappy apartment in Santa Ana, California.
No, it's fine, and I like the spooky decor.
Cool, thank you.
I like that, man.
You have an opportunity. First of all, a portal opens up right here in the kitchen. You have an opportunity to scare act or to be a monster during haunt season. You're given the freedom to create your own concept and backstory. What kind of monster do you play, and what is your backstory? Oh, and on top of that, the maze or immersive attraction that you're working in is based around your design. What do you do?
Dude. And you have 30 seconds to explain it all. Well, first it would be something that I could wear my glasses on. Anybody that has done any kind of scaring knows that if you can't see without your glasses and you don't do contacts, you're pretty hosed.
It sucks.
In the haunt world. You basically are blind the entire time, which I have been.
Yeah.
There have been years where I have scare acted at different haunts. People invite me all the time to be a monster here and there for different nights. I've done everything from I've been a ghost town monster at Not Scary Farm in the year 2000. I was a ghost town streets monster for one night for 8 glorious hours, and it was fantastic. And I couldn't move for like 2 weeks afterwards. There used to be Chambers of the Mausoleum used to be out in Corona. And I've done that before, and I helped create Boot Hill in Irvine, and so I know about scaring and being a monster and all this stuff.
Okay.
I would say, man, boy, if it was something where I could wear my glasses, that'd be so cherry. I think it would be cool. Period pieces are always great, right?
Love them.
So maybe I could be the owner of a really scary, fucked up dark ride at Coney Island.
Okay.
Right? So at the turn of the 20th century.
Liking it.
New York, Coney Island. I think the whole maze is in black and white because that's how we all pretty much know Coney Island these days through pictures. And I'm maybe the eccentric owner of the attraction. And I employ all of the misfits and outlaws and bad eggs that make up the monsters and the talent inside this dark ride or experience or whatever this is.
Okay.
And maybe they have all turned on me and on the guests, and I can't keep anybody away because they think that it's all part of the show. Right? And so not only am I in there and I know my way, I can help them get backstage or I can help them find passages through, I'm trying to survive as well. And I'm the only guy that knows we're really in deep shit here.
Okay.
So maybe that's...
Would you do a traditional walkthrough, or would it be like an immersive show like a Delusion?
Well, I think both, right?
Okay.
You have to have both. So here's the thing. And God, here comes the next podcast. In the industry, it drives me That is the drinking word. And that drives me batshit because people talk about being immersed in a show. Come to Galaxy's Edge. You are immersed in Black Spire. No. Coney Island was immersing people in the late 1800s. When you would go into a darkened theater and you'd have a cast of 150 little people being Martians on the surface of the moon or on Mars or whatever, and people are walking through these blacklight environments. That was immersion back then, right? Bump it up to the 60s. I think that Walt Disney did a pretty damn good deal with his team creating New Orleans Square at Disneyland as an immersive, all-immersive land. And before then, you know, despite being able to see power lines and shit like that beyond the berm, there was Frontierland with stagecoaches and horses dragging people around rivers of America. Immersion is nothing new, man. So like when suddenly that's like, it's like bacon. Like everybody went apeshit about 10 years ago about everything bacon. Dude, bacon's been around since Cro-Mags. It's not new. So if you are a designer, if you're a haunter, and suddenly you are like, well, we got to make it immersive. First of all, if you think that way, you're doing design the wrong way. Because if you're not building a living, breathing place for people to exist in and storytell with, you're not doing it. You know, that may be a new word to everybody. It's a new shiny look at this toy. But boy, if you don't build an environment where people can easily like suspend their disbelief, you better do something else.
Do something different. Yeah.
Do something different. Immersion is nothing new. It's gotten more complicated and audiences have become more savvy to this stuff. But it isn't new, man. People sat in a tiki room in the 60s and cool. Birds sang words and the flowers crooned all around you. Newsflash, they were immersed. So it's been around. It's part of our DNA as designers and creators of events and that type of thing. So I think that for something like a Delusion, and oh my God, this gets so into the weeds. You sacrifice capacity when you do something like a Delusion, right? Where you can't have something like Delusion at Not Scary Farm,
you can't.
Right? When John Cook told me like his concept for Paranormal Inc. and said, oh, we're going to have this really cool pre-show. The minute he said pre-show, I was like, no, you can't do that. He's like, no, we're going to have like 80 people in there at once or 50 people at a time, and then we're going to split them up and send them down A/B channel. I thought, okay, that's cool. Because going back to what I was saying about my Lair of the Vampire when I worked at Knott's in the early 90s, that line was hours long because they were taking people through show scenes at a theme park where people are cranking through thousands an hour, to see, these walk-through haunts. Just doesn't work. So I would say probably it would be more of a traditional walkthrough with very cool show moments.
Like little vignettes here and there.
Show moments that happen, not bottlenecks, because we've seen that happen also at Knott's with things like Trick or Treat the first year when the witch did her thing at the end during the party.
Yeah.
The entire maze backed up because everybody was stopping, waiting for the witch to do her thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the secret in attractions when you're walking through is to have these pop-up little moments just happen. You don't know when they're going to happen. You don't know what they're going to be. That, I think, is probably the best way to handle. And like always scare forward. Scare forward. Don't bring everybody to a stop. Right? So I think that my the terror of Coney Island would be a black and white walk-through experience, highly detailed, not saying the I word. And I'm there. I'm kind of wigged out and eccentric. I'm the one trying to explain to everybody, no. Everything's turned on us. You're really in danger.
That's so cool. You're the gatekeeper.
I think that's probably that's my fantasy haunted attraction for the afternoon.
I can see you with spectacles, maybe a top hat.
See?
Some type of like cape.
There you
and
go.
like maybe like a ring, like the circus, the ringmaster maybe.
See?
But not so campy, more turn of the century.
But the cape has a big slash through the back of it because somebody tried already to cut me.
Okay. I like it. The attraction turned on you and you were a part of it.
Yeah, and now I can't stop the crowds coming because everybody knows how scary it is, and I'm the one telling them, no, this is not, you don't want to go in here.
Are you going with the...
Yeah, and I'm trying to help them.
Should you're
And I think at some point I get offed at the end, right? I get offed, I get pulled back in, and then I recycle myself back to the front of the line somehow.
Do we have multiple looking Rick Wests playing different characters, or like?
I think it's just one of those things where either you get it or you don't, and you get out. And I love haunts where people get out and go, "Oh my God, did you see the widget?" And you're like, "What widget? I didn't see a widget." And they're like, Yeah, it was right after the so-and-so. And you're like, wait, I saw a so-and-so, but I didn't see a widget. And the guy goes like, I didn't see the so-and-so. So then you realize there's a bunch of shit going on that everybody missed because it's different stuff happening. I love that. That's my kind of haunt. I love that. I love haunts that are just that's how we started doing Boot Hill. We wanted to do something that wasn't so set on jump scares that you missed the fine details, but we wanted so many little details to happen that you really had to like stand there and look at stuff.
It was a lot to look at.
To see, right? And that all goes back to the Hallowed Haunting Grounds in Studio City, which Gary Korb did in the 70s. And starting in the 70s, he did it for 30 some odd years. And that became like the cornerstone of the home haunt community here in Southern California. And Hallowed Haunting Grounds, man, you spend an hour and you wouldn't see all the little details because certain things only happen like every 15 minutes. And if you weren't there to see a certain shadow go across, you missed it. So that's kind of the genesis of Boot Hill, and that's the kind of thing that I really get off on as far as like going to see haunts. Jump scares are fine, gore and violence is fine, but the fine little details in a really spooky ass environment. There was another house out in Santa Monica for years, the House of Restless Spirits. Same thing. And that's my jam, man. If you go to a really spooky thing that's set up like a cemetery and you know that if you stand there for 15, 20 minutes, you're going to see all sorts of just really creepy stuff happen. Oh, that's my jam. I love that. I love it.
I'm all about details as well. I love it. So you're going to have to build this haunt one day because I want to check it out. So
maybe, but I won't be working it though because I have to get around. I'm like Santa on Christmas Eve that flies around the world. Well, I got to jump all over the place and see things.
You're going to have to get a body double that looks like you. Just something.
Oh man.
That's the problem. I picture this character being used. You got to find someone that looks like him. So
God help the world. That would, God help the world for that if I had a doppelganger out there.
Well, sir, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And thank you. You've been an amazing guest. I love everything you've done. Thank you for bringing something back to the community and just sharing your stories and just we have a lot in common, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you for Awaken the Spirits, which is happening the 14th and 15th of August in Pasadena, California. Also, Season Screaming in December, the weekend before Christmas.
The weekend before Christmas, yes.
And Midsummer next year.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming on. Anything else you want to plug or mention?
Just thank you for having me, and we can't wait to see the community. And that's it. Just keep yourselves safe because, things are going up and down with COVID and all this stuff. And so just keep yourselves safe. Fist bumps are good. Elbow bumps are good. Don't need to be so touchy-feely with each other anymore, I don't think.
You don't have to.
So it's just be smart about everything. And let's just get through this once and for all together as a community.
Let's all come back together and have spooky season. So, all right, guys, I think that's a wrap. Episode 20 with Rick West. And let's see what happens this October. Thanks, Rick.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
You're listening to the Creepcast. You've once again barely escaped the clutches of the Creepcast with Rick Creeper. Next time, you may not be so lucky. To find out more about the Creepcast and Rick Creeper, follow Rick on Instagram at RickCreeper11. Until next time, be sure to keep that lantern light burning. You never know what could be lurking out there in the dark.